There are some power cards. There's like land thrashes and land thrashes. And they... I'm sure there's others.
To name a few.
I'll stop there. Stop.
I could go on. I choose not to.
Welcome to the Kindred Spirit Podcast, a program completely dedicated to the board game Spirit Island. On this show, we examine and discuss every aspect of the game, whether they be general tips, in-depth strategies, or silly shenanigans. Today, we officially kick off Season 2, with a fun little topic about which Jagged Earth spirit is the best for beginners.
What a shiny new intro.
Woo! Yeah!
Woo! Who's that?
What?
It was I. Did you forget about me?
Josh is back!
Woo!
You couldn't get rid of me.
Alrighty!
Alrighty.
Yay! He said it.
Oh, it is good to be back.
We're back, baby.
We're back, baby.
And Josh is
I'm back.
Oh,
Hey,
welcome
Josh is
back,
back.
Josh.
It's been so long since I've seen you, friend.
It has.
But you haven't aged a day. Hey! There it is.
Number 1.
Yeah, we need a tally counting.
First of many.
That's right. Now this is podcasting. Just check off all the quotas. Tree! I am no tree.
Just keep them coming. I'm on a roll today.
I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
Oh man, we're already devolving.
I hate you.
I loved you. Well,
It seems she's given up the will to live.
Oh jeez.
Not yet. We have to stop.
The listeners already paused and went to the next podcast on their queue.
I wonder what Joe Rogan's talking about today.
Oh,
No.
future collab?
Hey guys, have you ever played Spirit Island on DMT?
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the official beginning of Season 2. Oh, I'm excited.
Me too.
This is going to be
Me
great.
free.
Hey, yeah. So we got the
you.
gang back together, except for Laura because she's working.
The gang's all here.
Except for the cheaters.
That was 7 times.
Anyway, so our topic today, we wanted to ease into Season 2 with something a little bit on the lighter side, but something that's going to be...
Josh proof?
I was going to say new, but yeah, that works.
You repeat yourself.
More along the lines of something that is easily discernibly valuable that doesn't require an entire series to do. So we can ease our way in without having to go BAM!
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot of value to this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Not to tune around horns
Because you're here?
No, not because of me, but just because of the concept. So Jagged Earth is pretty highbrow for a beginner. And you get, 10 spirits?
Yes.
There is a lot that comes in Jagged Earth.
Aspects.
And the thing is when you talk about bang for your buck, and I've seen this on message boards, I've seen this on Discord, Reddit, and BGG and that kind of thing. I see people all the time. Hey everyone, love Spirit Island, loving the game, but there's a lot of expansions and there's a lot of promotional packs, but which one do I get first? And a lot of the time, I see people saying, get Jagged Earth first.
Makes sense.
At
the
times
reason
it's
why-
easier to get than
Yeah,
some of the
no,
promo
for
packs.
realsies.
Yeah.
Seriously, because a lot of the other ones have been out of stock for a while.
Mhm.
They go in and out of stock like all the time. But the thing is when you talk about bang for your buck, Jagged Earth is literally the same size. The box is the same size as the core game.
And it's packed to the brim.
it is packed. We got new minors, new majors, 10 new peeps. You got new fear cards, events, you got
Badlands,
aspects,
Brand
you get
new tokens.
new tokens.
Yeah.
So many new things.
But with that, had I bought Jagged Earth with my box, I'm pretty sure it would still be collecting dust. Just
Really?
because there's a lot to take in. So
Yeah.
having a guide on what some of the easiest spirits for new players would be, I think, is pretty useful.
Mm-hmm. And
think
it
so,
is
too.
to those individuals that we want to lend an assisting hand to today. Now, Now, granted, it is very much a truthful statement to say that anyone can approach this game for the very first time, take on literally any spirit, and could have a wonderful time, and we can have a new player come and just triple hand Bringer and Fractured and Vengeance and be like, okay, yeah, fun game. I don't think it's going to happen a whole lot, but it's technically possible. So this is definitely a subjective thing to be sure, but there are certainly some characters that are a lot easier to cognize and understand on the first go around than a lot of other characters.
Yeah.
And so
I completely agree.
what we're going to do is we're going to introduce who we think are the top 3 most easy to understand spirits. So, which spirit is the best for a newer player to play as? And I want to clarify, this topic is which spirit is best for the newer player to play as, not which is the best spirit to accompany a newer player as a helpful teammate.
Good qualifier.
Because some people hear that and be like, oh, who do I play with to help somebody? No, I mean, who is the best for the newer player to play as, for them?
It's game night. Here are the easier
Right.
characters for the new people.
Right, for them to play as.
Yeah.
Not who can I play as to help them in their first game.
And unlike the core box, which had 4 distinct, these are your starting
Right.
beginner spirits, Jagged Earth doesn't have that. It's
No.
all
No
moderate.
lows.
Moderates and
Right.
above, baby.
So it's good to find a starting point.
It's been really cool, as Ryan's talking, just the popularity of this game growing.
Yeah.
And you see people joining the Facebook group, wherever, Discord, BGG, Reddit, and they have the base game like Josh, and they start playing this, and like, wait, this is actually awesome, and I want more. So then they ask those questions, and I don't consider them super new. They have the base game, they've probably played it a bunch,
Sure.
but Jagged Earth does add a lot. So say you take the plunge and purchase Jagged Earth. These spirits, we think, are the best ones to play.
And so we thought it'd be really cool to ask this question to the group because each one of us has very specific playstyles, opinions, and experiences with various characters in this game. Therefore, we are going to approach this question with different angles, and so our feedback is going to be probably different. So I think it's going to be kind of cool to have differences of opinion here, and so we have no idea.
I love that we don't share with each other. We never have. We're always so secretive.
We never have. Are we talking in general? Or?
What are the odds of 3 identical lists here?
It's never happened.
But,
Not yet.
hey, never tell me the odds. No. But the thing that's really cool, though, is when you ask this question to a veteran player, maybe not even a veteran, but maybe someone who's played the game a few times and
Josh,
they
please leave the room.
We'll have you know that since Season 1, Josh has acquired a copy of Spirit Island for himself, John, and has been playing it.
John, I've
Whoa.
played at least 5 times.
Yeah!
That's a handful.
Watch your tone, sir.
I've played with adversaries. Ever heard of them?
Don't know what those are.
Habsburg.
Yeah, max level. When Laura and I are wiping the floor. Anyway, so the thing is people who are familiar with the game are probably going to hear this question, which Jagged Earth spirit is the best for beginners, and probably think of maybe a collection of 4 to 5 characters. They're going to be like, oh, it's like this group. And so here we are doing a top 3. You could argue, oh, well, we basically already know the answer. So basically the answers are going to be any one of these 3, 4, or 5 spirits. And then whichever one the newer player picks is just based on their preference. Or maybe you as a veteran player can assist them because, oh, since I know my friend, I'm going to pick someone that I think they'll do well with and provide them as an option. Okay, Mr. New Player, I think you're going to like this character because of this reason and this reason, or maybe this one because of this reason and that reason. So the thing is you can argue, well, we who have played the game a while already know who would be among the best for perhaps a newer player.
Sure.
But A, the newer players have no idea. The newer players, B, don't know why that would be the case. And C, if we do it in a top 3 here, we don't know who is where in first, second, and third. So that's going to be a fun discovery. Like I said before, I have no idea who John and who Josh has on their top 3, nor do I know in what order. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really curious to like see the reasoning behind what
that's
you
the
guys
coolest part.
have.
Right.
Because we had a game that we all got together.
Yeah.
And that was a fun time.
It was.
It was indeed. Are we going to get into it?
Whoa.
You can get into it for as much as it affects your list as possible.
Okay.
So reference it as you wish. It's not going to be like a step-by-step game plan thing.
On turn 1, I took growth option 3.
And Josh stared at his card.
Do you remember anything I did in that game?
Anyway.
You made a beast token.
Yeah, buddy.
Hey! Well, without any further ado, gentlemen, shall we?
Let's get into it.
This is where the fun begins.
Hey! Number 3!
So I go first.
Yeah.
Because reasons.
Because reason.
I kind of have a general theme.
Yeah.
With what I picked. And I guess it'll come into fruition as my list goes on. So I'm not going to say it first off. But it was really cool seeing Josh play in our game and what he saw. Because we played a lot of, I would consider lower level spirits or easier ones to maybe comprehend. No one was playing Fracture or Starlight or something. Or Finder. So it was cool to see your reaction to our gameplay and also the spirit you were playing. So that actually informed me. Oh, real quick. Okay, so we had our big game night, right? And that was a lot of fun. We had pizza, we had Josh over. It's like a production when you play Spirit Island. I did something similar with my brother, and I had him over. He lives in a totally different city, and we were playing against France, and he was playing Serpent, I was playing Shadows. And on turn 2, we get Farmers. I just need
our favorite.
So I just need it's quick farmers hate real quick. So farmers, you either build, and with France it's bad if you build because extra towns, or they either blight the land, and another bad thing happens. So
not a whole lot of good.
Either we lose to the towns,
or you lose,
or so we chose blight because we didn't want to insta lose, and then
that's right.
We blighted from the farmers, and then the first Ravage made us blight the island, so we had to flip the card to his tipping point, and we insta-lost on turn 2.
Oh, come on.
Because Serpent only had 2 presents out.
Of course.
So,
turn 2?
Yeah.
Oh, that's brutal.
Welcome to France.
It's just one of those things where, like, we made a big night of it.
With that fancy general direction.
It's just, you know, you make a big production. It's hard to have people over to play a game. And he's like, we made a meal for him, and we set it all up, and put all the pieces out, and then game's over. I'm like, all right, 8:30. See you, Sam. So take farmers out of the game, please. Take farmers out of the game.
Bye, John.
All right, my first one. Sorry, I just had to say that.
No worries.
All right, so I picked an overall theme, trying to think of what a newer player would like. I think sometimes fear is harder to comprehend in that specific gameplay, or maybe even like pushing things around the board, even like high control maybe is difficult. So my first one I picked was Volcano.
Hey. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a friend that Ryan and I know, Evan.
Yeah.
We played a game with him, and he had played a couple times with us, and we started to introduce Jagged Earth to him, and he chose Volcano. So it's just like one of those things where I've experienced a newer player playing, and he really took to it. I think the growth options in Volcano are what we kind of know, if that makes sense. It's not like a pick one and one.
Right.
Or
They're more straightforward.
Pick one and always pick this one or something.
It's thankfully not an intimidating one.
It's not.
When you look at it.
You basically just have a reclaim growth, or you have like the double presence growth, or you have like one presence and then cards.
That last one does so many things.
It does like 4 things.
It's so great.
But it's not hard to comprehend, I don't think.
Yeah.
So he never had a question about like, how do I grow? And he was very aware of like, okay, I can only go in mountains. Like something about that, like it just makes it easier if you can only go to one spot. Like less decision making.
Right, it like consolidates your thinking.
Yeah.
It takes some of those hard choices away from you. You're not spending a lot of time thinking.
Do I go to this wetland? Or should I go to this coastal land? Or where should I grow? He's like, oh, I can go to this mountain or this mountain. I'm like, yeah.
Yep.
And he's like, cool.
Yeah. It streamlines the presence placement conundrum.
To one spot. I think it's a very thematic spirit. So as a new player, that's fun.
It is. Yeah.
I know all the spirits are thematic, right?
Right.
Ryan had that comment. Laura's like, this one's really thematic. And Ryan's like, they are.
But some are easier to grasp. Like, river. Yeah. That's easy to think. But Fractured Days?
You're making a literal volcano. You're
stacking
them.
And
so for Evan, it was just like, dude, I am making this volcano. I'm like, yeah, you are, man. That's awesome. Good for you.
Yep.
And I think blowing stuff up, not that like that makes you a dumb player if you like blow stuff up, as an eloquent control player. But something about Evan's like, yeah, I did damage there, I blew it up. So he took the city off the board. I'm like, yeah, you totally did. You know?
It's simple. It's just, there's bad guy, I gotta get bad guy. Boom.
Get bad guy, and you can do damage in 2 lands. In the original land, and then, 1 range away, or if you get higher, you can make that longer.
Yeah, and the theme in a character, like you said, it really helps, because a character who's very thematic makes sense. You don't have to brute force memorize anything.
Right.
Sure.
Because sometimes I've had to explain, like, this is what it means, like, because you're a shadow, and you're across the map, and there's like, crops wither. Why are the crops withering? Because you're making a shadow on the...
Yeah, cool, yeah. And it's cool, but some discoveries are a lot easier to... I
think that's why people like Ocean a lot. It's like, oh, my tide's going in.
Right, and then when bad guys go in there, bleep.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm drowning. So I think Volcano is super thematic.
Yeah.
I think it's gratifying to play because you feel like you're doing a lot.
Yeah.
Which you are. I mean, sometimes there would be a turn we didn't do anything, but, he'd be like, I stacked another piece on that mountain. Like, you sure did, bucko.
Yeah.
And he got to like a 6 present explosion. That's huge. It was really cool for him to do that. One thing I really liked is it's got this really nice support card where you can give range
Exaltation of Molten Stone.
Yes, thank you, Ryan.
That's the one where you split 1 energy per fire element you have between yourself and a target spirit as evenly as you can. Then, that friend that you target can get +1 range on all their powers this turn if it originates from a mountain.
Which is, I think, really cool. It goes in with the theme. And for Evan and for other newer... I'm making so many references to Evan. But, hey, shout out to Evan.
Hey, buddy.
It helped him focus not just on his own board tile.
Yeah.
So he would look around and be like, does anyone want extra range? Is anyone in a mountain? Does anyone need energy? It would get him engaged, because sometimes as a newer player, you can get very overwhelmed and you're just like, I need to take care.
Even if it's a small thing, you're right. It is very nice to feel like you are contributing to the team play aspect of the game.
So those are the things I saw about Volcano. I know it's like very much my experience with one newer player, but it seemed to really click for him, and I saw it in my mind. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense why this spirit did so well for a newer player.
Yeah.
So Volcano for me.
I feel it.
One quick last thing about Volcano. We mentioned all the new things you get in the box with Jagged Earth. Volcano uses one of those new tokens being Badlands.
Yeah.
So I think that is also helpful to a newer player. You get to see what this is. You get to place it out.
Lava Flows is great because it's also a card where you can get a choice. It's a choice. You can either get a Badlands and a Wilds, shout out to another token that you can get experience with, or you can use it for damage.
Which is cool because if you are in the beginning just stacking up Badlands, you can do that. And then that 1 damage can turn into a 3 or 4. And Ryan, you've talked about with a lot of minor powers that can stack Badlands.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite things.
So I think that's another cool part of this kit where you can start to gain more experience. These are what Badlands are. These are what they do. This is how they stack damage.
Yeah.
So, I've never played Volcano, but something he does is he destroys his own presence. Now, as a new player, that seems typically bad.
Yes.
So did that throw off your friend at all?
What was helpful, I think the innates are kind of self-explanatory, but on your right innates, which is called Powered by the
Earth.
Yes, Powered by the Furnace of the Earth, you can add your destroyed presence. So I think it made sense to him, but he would have to blow up to do damage, but then he had a way to getting it back with the right innate.
Thankfully, that's something that you can quickly identify, because you look at the left one, oh, I can destroy stuff to do effects. Look to the right. Oh, but I can get them back. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thankfully, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like that net is right there.
Yeah. So I think maybe at first it was just like a question, but yeah, like Ryan said, you glance over to the right, you see that there is an easy way to get it back.
Gotcha.
Before I go on to give my number 3, I'd like to give a little insight onto the thought process that I had for why I picked the characters that I picked, so that you can understand, oh, okay, this is why. All right. So, first off, like we said earlier, these are all of our opinions. Very highly subjective, okay? Yes. Incredibly subjective.
The reason I picked Volcano, because of one time I played a game with a newer player. I'm like, hey, you took to this really nicely.
That's not an opinion, that's a fact.
So, the way I see it, each spirit teaches the player important values within the game, both with their strengths and their weaknesses. So, just as an example, take the low complexity spirits from the base game, for instance. Let's see what we can learn from some of their strengths. Oh, lightning can teach you the value of the speed of a power and why that is a big deal. River can teach you the value of how effective control can be. Earth can teach you the value of presence placement and the intensity intentionality you should have when placing a presence on the board.
And defense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shadows can teach you how powerful Dahan can be.
True.
And effectively using them well. You can learn many things from any number of characters. Some lessons or values can be learned from a variety of spirits. So I'm not saying that you can only learn certain things from certain characters, but that there are specific characters who are more likely to convey the truth or reality of a game mechanic to the player in an easier and more straightforward way than perhaps another character might. So for instance, both River and Shadows could teach the player the value of control. But, personally, I just think River will probably teach that lesson a bit easier and clearer than Shadows would.
Shadows also teaches fear is a viable for new players.
There are a plethora of lessons that everyone
Let's keep the
teaches.
Shadows love going.
Yeah! I was just listing one thing. But in the same way that a character can teach you something about the game with their strengths, they can also teach you something with their weaknesses.
Let's stop talking about Shadows.
So, for instance, with the exact same crew, Lightning can teach you the value of proper hand management. Having a bunch of cards and being like, oh, I have enough card play, let's use them all. Oh no.
Reclaim loop.
River can teach you the value of fear generation and how important that is.
Lack thereof.
Because they got none.
Nothing, baby.
Earth can teach you the value of finding damage cards and the importance of actually going through the decks.
Yeah.
Because their damage comes from Dahan, and sometimes, in many scenarios, that's not good enough.
Yeah, unless you're running sword and board.
Yeah.
You do a lot of damage.
Yeah. Shadows can teach you the value of which growth option to pick.
Always growth options. You need that energy in the early
Shadows
game,
can also
folks.
teach you the value of good proliferation and unrelenting growth and growth
aspects.
or aspects.
Shadows can also teach you why you should be playing a different spirit.
Stop! I like Shadows. No, level 6, we've done it.
So, regarding every spirit, there's something each spirit has that may be difficult for the player to mantle or understand. And so, that thing may serve as a barrier to an enjoyable experience for the player. So I made my list with the spirits that I have in my top 3 about the lessons that they can teach the player.
Yeah.
And the importance of those lessons and the simplicity of understanding these lessons in a clear way that you will remember, but also the potential barriers that the player might have. Now, when it comes to potential barriers, I listed those from things that I think newer players will struggle with, as well as things that I have seen newer players struggle with. So in the same way that you were talking about Volcano and the things that Evan was able to, hey, I could do this, and hey,
really
well,
click
maybe not
with.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so these are opinions from both me and from the experiences that I've had. That is how I've structured mine, the lessons that each spirit teaches you. So, my number 3... Volcano looming high.
No! What if we have these same exact lists, Ryan?
I guess we're gonna find out.
That was fast.
So, Volcano can teach the player the value of range. This is really cool.
Yeah.
Because they have a awesome special rule that allows them to boost the range of power cards. And so, as the newer player is going through the deck, they can still feel special by, hey, I can do something that you can't. That's always fun. You always want someone to have something asymmetric and different from someone else. And so, this is something that I think is really easy to understand, but they can quickly see, because then range 0 powers become completely different.
And there's a lot of those in the minor deck where I pull them and I see like, I'm not range 0 from this. I can't defend here.
And so they can think, I can add +1 range. And in the same way that you thought, John, I think Volcano assists a newer player in the fact that they can only go to mountains because it completely streamlines where they go. And they don't have to worry about range stuff because, hey, just remember, so long as you have 3 or more presence, you get +1 range on all your things with the exception of your explosive
so
rupture.
you kind of want to go in the same spots.
And now they can start thinking about their presence less for sacred site usage as a normal character would, but rather for range and now ammo for their cool innate. And it's really cool for them to have something that's manageable.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's really that hard to think, hey, I can deal damage based on how many things I destroy. And thankfully, since I can get them back, this is my ammo. Okay, cool. Okay. So now they have a fun mini game that they can have with themselves, but they don't have to worry so much about, hey, I have land restrictions. Oh, I can't go in blighted lands. Or, oh, I can't do this in a wetland or a sand. Oh, I can only do this in jungle. Hey, it doesn't matter. Your entire hand can go in any land. You can boost your range.
Yeah.
And so when you're finding cards, you can just pick up these cards and be like, hey, +1. Sweet.
I'm glad you brought that up because that is a big struggle I've seen. So you're in the growth phase and someone's like, what do I do? I'm like, oh, you grow, you place a presence. They're like, okay, where?
Right.
Yeah, and that's a question I frequently have. When I play with you guys, it's like, I don't have a good spot for it. How can I help you guys out?
So many times people have asked me, oh, where should I place a presence? I'm like, who are you? What's your situation? What do you have in your hand? And what do you have in your
There's a million
hand
questions,
currently?
right? And you literally could grow anywhere, theoretically.
Also, what do you feel like doing?
Yeah, and what cards you have, and what innates are you triggering this turn?
Yeah,
Usually, by the way, I don't actually barrage them.
But those are what you're thinking.
But that's what I'm
right?
thinking. Yeah.
Volcano definitely helps deal with that beginner analysis paralysis that you can get when staring at your growth track, which I am oft to do.
I think that's the longest chunk of the game. Yeah, is the growth phase for a lot of us.
Another lesson that Volcano can teach is the value of losing presence, and specifically how not bad it actually is. I know that when you have presence and like, hey, this is you, this is your support on the island, but when you lose it, oh no, and it's scary. I get that. That is scary. That's one of my things.
When
right?
I first playing, I felt like I was losing power. Right? I was losing my effect on the island.
But one thing that Volcano will assist the player, I think, is that losing presence is okay. And even if you're not Volcano, losing presence is still okay. Because you have 13 presence, okay? They have to catch you 13 times in order for you to actually lose. I've never seen it. I have literally never seen someone lose all 13. Sure, a tipping point thing here or there, but I'm talking about like all 13.
No.
Like you can lose 1 or 2 and it's fine. And in Volcano's case, you're one of the 3 people in the game that can natively get their presence back.
Yeah.
Green and Downpour being the others. So it's like, it's all right because you're blowing your stuff up anyway. If they catch you and they hurt you one, that's fine. That's in your gameplay style already.
And it's easy to grow because of the double placing presence or the growth ray option. You are also able to place a presence.
So don't sweat it.
So don't sweat it.
Yeah. Another lesson that I think Volcano can teach is coexisting with Blight is not so bad.
Yeah.
Fun fact, pretty much every Jagged Earth spirit teaches this lesson.
Yeah. We really embrace
and we're
the
going
Blight.
to be seeing that in my list going
Blight
forward.
is your friend.
So, Blight is something that you don't want to overspam. Okay, cool. But I remember having the mindset from the base game, especially because of Memory Fades to Dust, as well as Downward Spiral.
Death Spiral.
Death Spiral.
That it's a never. Like, nope. But in truth, placing a Blight out there is not the worst. Remember, it's only the last few that matter.
Yeah.
Sure, you can dabble with it. You actually can. But you just don't want to use this inefficiently. Like, too much.
Willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly. You don't want to be cavalier with it.
Well, and it has a thematic application as well. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to damage the island. You're trying to protect it.
Right.
You don't want to burn down the forest to kick out the invaders.
Right. And so the thing is once you see that it's a part of your gameplay style, you may think, oh no, I don't want to do this because I'm hurting the island.
Blight.
But if you do, the thing is you won't be yourself. The point is, you being yourself does this to the island, and that's okay. Because you can find cards, and with them, with increased range, that can get rid of it. You can have friends that can get rid of it. And heck, even if you don't get rid of it, and the island does blight, you can still win. It's all right.
You could still have a healtty island. Who knows?
It's one of those things where it's like, it's scary, but it's not so bad.
It's okay to blight.
Yep.
God still loves you.
One question.
Eric still loves you.
A question because obviously we picked the same spirit, I was mulling over. There is the Dahan damage. That did seem to trip up Evan a little bit. I don't know if
Just give me about 10 minutes.
Okay. We'll tackle back to
Now,
that.
when it comes to the whole coexistence with Blight, I'm talking to the players who never Blight, and they care way too much about being perfect. And I'm telling those players that it's okay to dabble. I'm not telling the players who already dabble to go overspam with it. I'm telling the people who are very uptight, who were me in 2017.
Sure.
Who played it way too safe. I'm talking to those people.
See, I can't blame you because you had 2 Blight cards, and they were both bad and worse.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but the thing is if you have Jagged Earth, that's no longer the setting. That's no longer the environment. It's okay.
Yep.
So I think another lesson that Volcano can teach is the value of sacred site accessibility. What I mean by this is there are a plethora of awesome cards in the deck that require you to have a sacred site in order to use because they're really cool.
Strong majors.
Quicken the Earth Struggles, phenomenal card. requires a sacred site. If you are Volcano, everything you do is a sacred site. Why is this cool? Because you can A, see the power of sacred site cards, but B, you can still feel special because I don't have to worry about whether I do or don't have that. I always have that. So I can always use sacred site cards. Hey, cool. I can understand that you may not be able to use this unless you have to like go through some other hoops to jump through to make it work. I can just make it work like that
You
very
are
easily.
one very tall sacred site.
And
Super
so you can use these powerful cards and feel kind of cool about yourself. That's a unique thing with Volcano. You never have to worry about sacred site legalities.
Because usually I don't like having sacred sites because you feel clumped up in one spot type of thing. It's like I want to spread out. I want to be everywhere. But with Volcano, you need to be in one spot. And you don't have to worry about the legalities. I like that point, Ryan.
Yeah, I guess that depends on play style. See, I'm a player who I typically build a ton of sacred sites.
Really?
And don't branch out too much.
We are different, you and I.
We are. Together we can rule the island, Spider-Man.
Together.
In the exact same way, range 0 cards you can take, because then you can buff them. There are so many cards that have restrictions and strings attached. Whether it be range 0 or sacred site, you can ignore some of these strings that are attached to some of these cards. Sure, not every card in the game, but to a lot of them. Therefore, you can feel special and cool. Like, hey, cool, I remember I used that card as Volcano. And even if you're not playing as Volcano, the new player can remember a time where they had that ease of access to cards. So it's like, hey, cool, sure, I may not be able to go places, but look at all these cards I can use a lot easier than even some of my friends, which is really cool.
Is Gold's Allure on that list somewhere? You have to mention every time you talk about Volcano, because you're like, this is the perfect card, Volcano.
I wasn't gonna bring it up.
Yeah,
but
you were.
I
Delete,
actually
delete,
wasn't.
delete.
No,
Copy,
this
delete.
was one of those things where I've said it so many times I actually wasn't, but it's true. Gold's Allure allows you to gather bad guys to a mountain, and so since you can attack on mountains all the time, it's just like wonderful natural combo. There, does that satiate your mental?
The prospector pushes down the explosive and just the whole mountain.
I love it. One thing though, Volcano will teach the player the value of friendly fire. Because you do a lot of splash damage.
Poor Dahan.
A lot of splash damage, both to bad guys and to the Dahan. On one hand, I think it's important to know how important Dahan are, but I also want the player to understand how there are multiple strategies to play in this game. Blight-heavy strategies, Dahan-heavy strategies, Beast-heavy strategies, mixed approaches.
Yeah.
And so I think if you have friendly fire in there, this is one of the few characters who does have friendly fire. Ocean has friendly fire, Keeper has friendly fire, and so does Volcano. So the point is, you can see that each one of these characters can carry a team while killing Dahan. Normally, I don't really like killing Dahan, but my point being, there are a lot of strategies in this game that aren't the same that also work. And so, there is a value of keeping Dahan alive. You can see your friends maybe using them in your game. Okay, I could do that if I wanted.
Yeah.
So there's a choice now. Do I go for defend cards and use that power? Or, well, I can do this. There's a choice. There's choices, and they're simple to understand choices. Because Volcano also allows you to, okay, well, do I do small damage?
Or big ones.
Or big ones, because the big ones will mean that there's more blight on the table, but that means a lot more damage, because the thing is the more presence you destroy, at the first level, you just get damage based on how much stuff you destroy. At the next level, you get fear in addition. But then the next one, you get bonus damage.
Bonus damage.
Combo.
Range.
And you start to do it in multiple lands.
Yeah.
So there's all these cool perks that get added to your explosive eruption. So it's a cool choice to have. So even if you do have friendly fire and whatnot, my point is you have access to different kinds of builds. And I think that is what's cool.
And something that Volcano does is it gives a new player a very clear goal.
Yeah.
Build that mountain.
Yeah.
Because as a new player, it's easy to get bogged down with what to do.
What am I supposed to do here?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So having a clearly defined goal, build up that mountain. The more you blow up, the more damage you deal. Is good. Very good.
What I saw, Evan really liked Rain of Ash in
Yes.
regards to like destroying Dahan, because he was just like, I don't want to do that, because he liked, the...
Interesting card too, because it pushes bad guys away.
It pushes
to a land that doesn't have your presence.
It's
That's
cool.
bad.
Oh.
Because
well, yeah, he was
here's the
just
thing.
trying to save Dahan.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Getting Dahan out of there, good. Getting bad guys out of there, bad.
So
because
it's a choice.
you want bad guys on your lands. Because whenever you destroy your presence, bad guys on your lands get dealt damage.
Yeah.
So you want to gather as many bad guys to yourself as often as you can, because collapse in a blast of lava and steam hurts bad guys in the way that we just described. Of course, speaking in a general sense, it's never a bad idea to move bad guys off of a problem spot if they're about to build or maybe attack and blight you, for instance, but you get what I'm saying for this particular strategy. So, once again, you have that choice. This will save the Dahan, but it makes it harder to reach the bad guys.
And this isn't worded, because there are some control cards we can push up to. This is not that. It's you have to push this and to explorers. You have to do it. It's not may, it's not
because
up to.
Pyroclastic Bombardment hits everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. So
it's cool making those choices, though. It was cool to see a newer player working that out.
You will have to make an effort to sift out who you are hitting.
Yeah.
Find some additional control cards to manipulate good guys out of there or bad guys to you. Or maybe grab defend cards so that you can keep Dahan from dying in all these various things.
I think defend cards are really clutch because, like you said, with range, you can buff defend cards range. So you can be a whole influence on the entire island.
Volcano, like you said, John, also can teach the value of Badlands and Wilds. That was on my list, too.
I think Laura's...
We have a new token here.
Laura's still trying to figure out Badlands.
Yep. Don't worry. We're there whenever she's playing.
Tried standing them up.
Hey, you did that in our game.
But simply put, we all know here on the table what these tokens do, but the original roster didn't really have a whole lot of characters that could.
No.
Sure, Keeper could.
And that's it.
And that's it. So the point being, whenever you have someone that uses a token, that allows the player to become more familiarized with that token. Really straightforward stuff. So then, the last big lesson, I mentioned this before already, but the importance of splash damage. Or to word it in another way, the value of efficient offense. Whether it be gathering bad guys into you and hitting them there, or going out to find ways to hit multiple lands simultaneously.
Okay.
Volcano has this very easily built into their kit automatically. When you play as another attacker, you're going to be like, oh man, I remember when I played Volcano and you can attack 2 lands every single time, at minimum.
Yeah.
Then, at certain levels, you can attack 7 or 10, depending on how many you're adjacent to. Right.
And if Finder's in your game.
Right.
With
so you can see,
the
player can see efficient offense in the form of splash damage, hitting multiple targets, reaching all these various targets that are far away or in adjacent lands. And that's really valuable. The potential barriers I think Volcano may have, only going to mountains might make people maybe think... restricted.
Okay.
But I honestly think this one's not so bad, because the moment you get that range increase, like, okay.
And it's so cool to make a tower.
I know, it's so cool. I think they're more eager for that. Yeah.
I'd say the restriction there is only upside for a new player. Unlike something like Lure or Ocean, where there are times when you're like, man,
that feels more restrictive, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But with the range booster, Volcano seems to have all the bases pretty well covered.
Yeah. Explosive Eruption can be confusing.
Okay.
I have seen that. Because people are like, wait, what? Once you know what it is, it's very simple. Level 1, do damage. And your damage is based on how much presence you destroy. Level 2, you can now add fear to that. Cool, based on the same number. Then your third tier allows you to still get fear, still do damage, but now you get bonus damage on top of that, and in extra lands than you originally targeted. And then, of course, you got the big one, the 10.
I've only seen it once.
Kill yourself and everything else.
You're just doing 14 damage and maybe 16, 17, 18, 20, depending on how many Badlands tokens.
Oh my goodness.
It's phenomenal. But the thing is it can be confusing, especially with how it relates to collapse in a blast of lava and steam. Because at first, it wasn't obvious to me or even many of the other players that you attack in 2 lands. Because you destroy your presence, right. But whenever you destroy your presence, you deal damage where it was destroyed. So the game doesn't tell you, hey, you're attacking in 2 spaces.
You kind of figured that out,
Oh, I thought it was more kind of like a vengeance as a burning plague thing. Oh, whenever they catch me, I get a disease out there. Oh, whenever they catch me, I can do some damage back to them. But if you destroy your presence, you can damage them. Oh. And this is a common theme. Blight can be scary. It's fun to go ahead and still walk the line, but sometimes you can be like, okay, that was more than I was comfortable with. Yeah. And you just put 6 Blight out there, you're like, Okay,
Thematically, it makes so much sense.
Oh, it makes a ton of
it's
sense.
So cool.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I love how Lava Flows gives you the chance between this effect or that effect.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool because there's a lot of cards in the game that do that, so you can kind of get into the whole mental zeitgeist. Okay, I can do effect 1 or effect 2. You know, that kind of thing. Volcano also teaches you the value of fear. It goes, boom, 10 fear. Sweet! That was your card. But the thing is, still, Blight can still be scary.
Especially the newer players.
I think the Jagged Earth spirits really hammer this notion home that it's okay to coexist, but still, it's a nails on a chalkboard thing to many players, and I don't think it should be ignored.
I concur.
Hey!
You're number 3.
My number 3. Let me get my glasses.
Get his monocle.
You're an old man.
He's an old man now. Even though he's the youngest one here.
I'm an old soul. For my number 3, it's one that works very well with Volcano.
Oh.
Hey!
At least I would think. And it is the only spirit from Jagged Earth I've actually played.
Hey!
For my number 3, I'm picking Lure of the Deep Wilderness.
Oh.
Such a good spirit.
Fantastic, kind of confusing. Had I not played them and just read the stuff on the wiki,
Yeah.
I don't think it'd have been on my list.
Really?
Yeah, so it's 4 new tokens for a player to keep track of. You've got Wilds, Beasts, not Strife.
Not Strife.
That's the only one you don't have. There you go.
And Badlands.
Hey!
Yeah. Hey, you did it!
Hey!
You get a cookie.
So, Lure does have a lot of slow powers, not a lot of damage or defense right off the bat. So it looks tricky. It requires a lot of planning ahead. You have to break down the cities and towns, pull them into you, and then smite them with Swallowed by the Wilderness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In our game, it seemed like the slowness of Lure, like you had to get adjusted to that.
Absolutely.
You gotta set up your depots of sadness.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to sell this spirit to new players. But
You were struggling hard.
I'm saying
Let the man speak.
I did have a seizure. But
Only one.
I'd say by turn 3, that's when everything clicked and it was all coming together. And I was breaking stuff down, triggering my innates at multiple levels.
What changed on turn 3? You keep mentioning turn 3.
So turn 3 was right when I realized, like, okay, I need to start planning ahead here. I can't just make a wild token every turn and call it a day.
I remember you asked me, wait, so my innate does this, but it also says that. Does that mean I do both? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Lure has some of the most multifaceted innates in the entire game. And he was like, oh, nice!
Yes, and I distinctly remember, I think it was end of turn 2, you two were like coming up with a plan and like getting all excited.
Dude, me and Ryan hand in hand. Then you do this, then I do that.
And you guys like high-fived and were like, yes! And you're like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm blighting.
And both my Ravage lands.
I remember that.
It was a coastal sands that I just could not deal with for a bit. But all I had to do is I dug up some power cards, got some defense with some range, and I was able to start steadying the boat,
Okay.
so to speak.
Stabilize the boat.
Yeah, stabilizing the boat. And once that happened, it was all uphill for there. Lure felt like a powerhouse.
I mean, Josh's board quickly got very clean.
Right, and as the game goes on, you get more presence, which equates to more explore ignoring.
Yes.
Which is also really fun.
Yeah.
I don't think you blighted after that turn. After that bad Ravage where the sands happened.
Yeah, I blighted one time.
Yeah.
And after that, it was all hunky-dory.
Hey!
Because I remember as the game turned, I was playing Mines. Not that I was struggling, but obviously with Mines.
You hear that, T-Ips?
I wasn't
He
struggling.
played many mines.
I played many
I
mines.
played Gritting Trickster.
See, we can adapt and play different playstyles.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it helped that we were all beast users.
Yeah.
Because
We had a sub-theme of beast usage.
The Beastie Boys!
That's
so many beasts, which made my stuff easier, and I was making your stuff better.
Oh,
and
100%.
easier to access.
I kept stealing your piece. I'm like, I'll take that one. Thank you.
You were spawning them.
You asked before you slid them onto your board.
I think I took one to Ryan's without asking him. Like, it was unexpected anyway,
Hey,
this
that's
tiger.
fine. I was making so many beasts.
The unexpected tiger.
That's
knows no
right.
man.
You
Yep.
did have such a beast build with Trickster. That was so cool.
I like to play.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, it was fun. But for new players, I do think Lure has some good things to teach. Tokens are a fun resource to manage, and having to learn 4 of them,
Yeah.
it was a lot, but once I got it...
Hey, I gave you that player aid card. Don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
Thankfully, wilds and disease are very straightforward.
Well, all of them are pretty straightforward. The only one that can be confusing, I'd say, is Badlands.
Sure.
But even that, once you
Right,
get the
it's not the
nuance,
worst.
once
It's
you
not
get the
the worst.
nuances
You
out of the
figured it
way and you stand them up, it just
You were all about standing them up.
I know.
It just gets
Because we would like push him down because I'm like maybe misplaced him, but he would like then restand
Reset it up.
oh, they look better.
with the premium token pack where they actually can stand up.
Sponsored by Broken Token.
Hey! People at home trying to do like the cardboard ones. No, not that one.
It won't stand.
If you can make that one stand up, props, dude.
You have a level house.
Yeah, really.
But Lure definitely, I think he's powerful. He's a lot, but it's stuff you're going to have to learn anyways from playing Jagged Earth. After those first few turns of playing him, I think you'll click probably faster than I did, and you'll just start having a blast.
Yeah.
The big key there is his innates. They're so good.
So good.
And you can trigger them pretty
9
easily.
things can happen.
And very
It's
consistently.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I have one question. With one of the growth options, you can gain an element. Was that like a hang up at all? Because that is a newer thing.
I see debates about that often.
What do you think?
I think it's not a huge deal to see elements and other bonuses on the presence track.
Okay.
I thought that was really cool, actually.
You like that?
There was one moment, I think I took like 10 minutes to pick my growth option. You guys were all like, come on, Josh, come on.
Well, yeah, I remember you were like, "What? How are my growth?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you got to do 1 or 2, then 3 or 4," and you're like,
does this work? Oh, yeah, I thought I just picked 1.
Right. I was like, no.
Lure's pretty weak.
Yeah, this guy sucks. Give me
Still do
Earth.
growth option 2.
So the elements, either being on tracks or on growth options, that didn't throw you off.
No, it definitely added a layer to it where you think about your innates a lot, and that's a good thing this spirit teaches you. Like,
yes.
Innates are good, use them every turn.
They are
And
amazing.
picking the element that gets you to that next tier of innate based off your card play, very good.
I think Lure has some of the strongest innates just because there's so many like health multipliers that can be added in this game, either through events or England or Habsburg, and Lure just doesn't care and breaks them down. So that is something that even adversaries can't touch.
Spits out Badlands, and then you nuke them with Swallowed by the Wilderness. You deal like... Well,
very similarly to how Fractured Days works, Lure's third growth option, they can get either a plant, an air, or a moon. And since your innates use those, it's like, okay, well, I can kind of pick which one I want to stress this turn.
Which innate to focus on.
So it's kind of fun to formulate that plan.
How much damage did you end up doing with your Depot of Sadness, as Ryan calls it?
Yeah!
I think at the end, there's one spot in the center of my board, and I'd suck everything in it. It wasn't crazy, it was like 8 damage, but 1 energy and fast. That's
a starting
That's awesome.
card.
That's major power level.
Yeah,
seriously.
Absolutely.
It's no manifestations. But there's only one.
That is a special case, John, and you know it.
There's only one Thunder Speaker in the game.
But when you're doing that every turn at fast, and breaking things down,
and gathering people into that token
stuff
place.
He seemed very strong once the engine got moving.
Yeah.
So I would recommend it to new players. I think he's a little thinky, but you can handle it.
But I mean, it's your number 3, so that's a character that you think is decent, but not technically the best. So
a character I played just from reading on the wiki. There were at least 2 more I found that I thought would probably be better for a new player.
Okay.
So there are our number 3s. John's with Volcano Looming High.
Ryan with Volcano Looming High.
And Josh with Lure.
Lure! It was cool seeing you so strong. I think that's cool for a newer player too. Like Volcano, the strength of the eruption, and then you doing 8 damage on all these Badlands. I think that's something a newer player can really enjoy seeing.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
Number 2! So, for my number 2...
I hope it's not mine.
I guess we'll see. How good is your poker face, John? I guess we're going to find out. I have Grinning Trickster Stirs Up Trouble. The way I saw it, Trickster teaches the values of a lot of things.
Okay.
Right off the bat, the most obvious one, Strife. That's the Strife user. Just as it is with all the other tokens, it's good to see how certain tokens work, because when you go to play the game later on, you're like, aha, I remember my experience as that character, and seeing how it could be used in large quantities, in small quantities. The difference in your current game versus how you used it last time. How it can stop damage, how it can go ahead and slap that thing on a city, even if that's a Swedish city that's coming in with 5 damage.
Who cares?
And be like, ha-ha, and you can just counter all of it, and Dahan counterattacks are really fun to set up, because on your presence track, you can be like, yo, move a Dahan in there, block the damage, and then counterattack that sucker. Hey, you know, it's kind of fun to see what you can do with Strife. And I think it's just an important lesson when it comes to token users to learn these tokens.
The OCD-ness of me is mad that Trickster and Vengeance weren't shipped with Branch and Claw, because I want each token to be represented in Branch and Claw.
Keeper, Beast, Fangs, Disease, vengeance and strive, Trickster!
I just wanted to be so
dude.
perfect.
I completely feel you. Same thing. But now that we are in the modern times where we have all of them now,
That's true.
hooray, at least we can have the family all back together once again. But I think Trickster, and once again, Trickster is not the only person that can teach you this lesson, but they can teach you the lesson of how valuable a pick 2 growth option is. Because they are the only Jagged Earth spirit that has a pick 2. Lure gets close, but Lure is an asterisk. Yes, they pick 2, but it's not a pick any 2. It's pick 1 or 2, then 3 or 4. Trickster is the only one that is actually a true pick 2. And so it's fun to go to market and be like, okay,
It's the best type of growth options.
I love that one. And if you like that, Starlight can even go to pick 3. But don't start with Starlight. Anyway, so it's fun to look at, okay, what can I do? Oh, I can pick 2 of these. Okay, I can mix this with that. Okay, I can mix this with that. Okay, I just need this.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of feel-bad growth phases with Trickster.
You don't feel restricted. Sometimes you can pick 1 and be like, was that the right one? Well, now you can pick 2. So now you can be like, okay, I'll do a little bit of this one and a little bit of that one. It's like a soup. I'll throw this in there.
Yeah.
I'll throw that in there. Okay, cool.
You feel like you're always doing something beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't really have to choose, unlike some spirits, between like, do I reclaim? Do I gain energy? Do I grow? It's really whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Then, I think Trickster can teach you the value of minor powers. For lo, their game mechanic about, let's see what happens, lets you go through the minor power deck. You get to see the value of what these minor powers can do. Sure, they're random, but the thing is, it's in your gameplay style to surf through that puppy and see what's in there. And you can be like, wow, I did that with a minor power. Hey, I did this with a minor power. I defended. I spawned a Han. Hey, I got rid of a Blight. You can see now what minor powers can do, and why I think that's cool for a new players, because the new player was told, hopefully, in the game's tutorial from the person teaching the game that there are minor powers and there are major. Well, naturally, we all want to go to majors, right? Because that sounds like it's powerful.
They're
minor
better.
Power, minor power sounds so weak in comparison, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's just a minor power. But then, once you play a game where you're using minor after minor after minor after minor, you're like, hey, these things are actually really useful.
Yeah.
I've seen some players that go for majors because they're like, ooh, majors, that's cool, that's where the powerful stuff is. And they completely overlooked the usefulness of minors. So I think that Trickster can display the usefulness of minor powers.
I think that's twofold because, Ryan, as you said, you are learning the minor power deck by using Let's See What Happens, and you are getting more comfortable, more familiar with these powers. So as you start to play Trickster more and more, you'll keep track of what's in the discard pile of the minor deck. And you're like, oh, there have already been some Blight placing ones.
Yeah.
I know that I can target this Blight at land because odds are it won't come up. Or, there haven't been a lot of defend cards. I need to defend this land. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
It's a defend
Yeah,
card. So
and it
I
is.
think that is twofold where you're learning the minor power deck. Because you're learning it, you're more aware of it, so you might know what could come up next.
Yeah.
Not only that, it can help you get familiar with cards you wouldn't normally use.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
You flip a card that's like, under normal circumstance, I wouldn't put it in my hand, but let's
Right.
see what happens. Why not?
Okay, that game that we had was easily the most lucky game I've ever had.
You
in
got
my
so lucky
life.
with Trickster.
In my life.
That's discounting the events.
The luck that we had, Trickster was like triple S tier in this game. And we're talking like, hey, let's see what happens. Well, I can't stop the damage coming in this land, but I can move to Han. I'll move one dude there and one dudette there. Cool. Then, event happens. Hey, you can gather Dahan over here and they can do damage. Okay, then if you have 2 Dahan, I moved this guy for no reason, just for kicks and giggles, but now there's 2 Dahan. You get to do this cool thing and there's 2 Dahan in there. Yeah!
Your card comes up. Defense base on Dahan.
And so, my next thing, Trickster can teach you the value of learning the power deck.
I stole your line.
I'm
That
sorry,
is
I stole
no-
the thunder.
That is totally fine. We're in agreement, for
We are.
I also think the same. Because once you know what's in there in future games, hey, I played this one card, and exactly what you said, Josh, I might not have picked that card to help with the situation. But by George, I used this card last time, and it actually really helped.
It's free.
It's free.
Speaking of lucky, can you talk about the OP card pull that you got that helped me with my card plays?
Are you talking about Spur On with Words of Fire?
Oh, thank you for that card, because John got to go top track as mines, because I always had 3 card plays because of Ryan.
Oh, that is a very high quality boon card right there.
And
How many times did we use
I
that?
felt like you use it at least every other turn, maybe every turn.
Yeah, and I don't think it was ever directed at me.
That's okay, buddy.
Well, at that point,
I
that
think
was
we did it once. Because I remember giving you energy.
We threw you a bone.
That was to help me trigger some innates at the beginning. But
Yeah.
once I got the lure engine rolling,
Yeah.
you used that card you pulled
On me a lot.
to just beef up many mines.
Yep. To be fair, whenever I have such a card, I ask, hey, who needs this card? Thankfully for me, it had every single element that I needed.
Yeah.
Every single one. So for me, it was like, I'm not even using this card on myself for the effect. I'm using it purely for the elements. And so I don't need the effect. The elements are good enough. So who wants an extra card play and an energy?
And every turn it was like,
That's why this game's so cool to be like, those
Yeah.
elements helped you trigger your innates. You helped me go top track, so my mines was beefy and was
Yeah.
playing majors.
Yep.
You were getting your engine rolling, like you said. Like, it was just such a cool game.
I think Trickster could also teach the player the value of Dahan and beasts. Yes, so many other spirits can do that, but it is something that Trickster can do. Because you can go ahead and use why don't you and them fight in tandem with how you placed your strife, perhaps, to set up attacks or counterattacks. Because, hey, you can make Dahan pick fights with bad guys. But, wait a minute, the Dahan and the bad guy, they do damage to each other. Yeah, but if you strife one of them, hey,
big brain.
So you can see how cool Dahan can be. But you can also see how valuable beasts are, because you can spawn beasts, you can gather beasts, cause fear with them, move bad guys with them, with unexpected tigers. And like I said, Trickster, of course, is not the best beast user, nor the most efficient Dahan user. But you are a beast user.
You're able to do it.
And you are a Dahan user.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe not to the extent of other people, but you can still do it, and that is really important to see.
It was cool seeing you keep the clamps down, because you can make it a slow, but it is innately a fast power. Why don't you and them fight? So you would use these beasts, and before they can even build anything, you're gobbling them up, gobbling up their explorers or even towns, because it does 2 damage.
Yep. Once again, Blight is still something that you can learn with this character as, hey, it's okay if it's there. Because you have the capacity to add a lot of Blight. We got very lucky, by the way, with Overenthusiastic Arson. Used it 4 times, never got a fire card.
That's crazy. I've never seen that.
That was so nice.
I've never seen that happen.
Probably not going to happen
play
again.
with me more often.
We're going to keep having
But it
Josh
was great.
over.
It was just like, hey, there's a town.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a town. Hey, there's a town.
It's like a 1 energy card, too.
1
Yeah,
energy.
and it's fast.
So we were getting optimum value.
It was
that
so
whole
good.
game.
Never blighting.
And the thing is, when it comes to risks, I don't think a newer player is going to be completely aware of the value of what you are risking. So it's okay to take that risk because you don't necessarily know what you're wagering. Therefore, in the future, when you begin to learn how valuable these wagers are, you also already know the value of, hey, we don't have to play it super duper safe. This is something that would have been very beneficial to my 2017 self, who played it way too safe with playing green and earth all the time. Like, no, never blight.
No blight.
Not even once. Never.
You had very clean
Because it's
islands.
like, it's built into your kit, just like with Volcano, where it's like, hey, if you blight, that's okay.
Dude, cleaning up messes is a drag.
I know, and you don't even have to have the responsibility weighing upon you to clean it up.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. And the thing is, you can move your presence with Trickster. That is the next lesson. They can teach you the value of moving a presence.
Mobility.
That makes ranges a lot easier for a lot of cards.
Why don't you and them fight is range 0.
Hey! So you can use that movement and you can think about, hey, well, there's blight there. Well, it doesn't mean you have to stay there.
Yeah.
Oh, but if it goes there, it'll cascade and I could die. Just move. There you go.
There you go.
Sure, you're not the most mobile spirit, but whenever you reclaim, you can go ahead and move. I think one thing that's really cool, though, about Trickster is that they can teach you the value of presence track prioritization. Because in order to reclaim, it costs you an energy, which is strange. So on one hand, you may want to go top track because you can get more energy. But the thing is you have an energy spike that gives you energy based on what your current card play is. So you have an actual good incentive to do either.
Or both.
But neither of them are incorrect or correct.
Yeah.
It just is completely different. In the same way that Volcano had the choice of, well, do I blow up big? Do I blow up small? I wonder what I should do here. You have that choice. Another cool choice that Trickster users get to have is, well, do I do bottom track or top track? because this gets me this element, but that one gets me that element. If I'm going for beasts, I want more animal elements. Well, I can get that from going down this way. But fire gives me that one, and moon gives me that one. Maybe I can go that way. So it's not a tough decision, but it's a choice. And I think it's really cool to have different choices there.
Yes, it is true that every spirit in the game shares this consideration as well, but Trickster displays the values of either approach in a simple, clear, and straightforward way, I feel.
But for the final lesson, I think that Trickster teaches easily the most important for me personally, and that is Trickster teaches you the value of learning to let go.
Oh.
That is...
We're getting deep.
You don't
life lesson.
have to have this massive 6-turn plan. Yes, this game can be puzzly, and it's fun once you realize how this fast system works.
Turn 2, I'm doing this, then
Slow
turn 3,
system
and then by
works.
turn 4, I'll be here. Perfect.
So there will be bad guy
Don't do
then.
Nope.
So then I could use this card to play to kill that guy who's going to spawn, but I'm not going to have energy for it, so I'm going to need to do that action. And so I've seen a lot of newer players go and start to formalize this great architect plan that's like 5 turns in advance.
And they're stuck in quicksand doing nothing.
Like
and they're
the
sitting there
hangover
with
guy.
like, yes, Zach Galifianakis with all the things. And the thing is it is totally cool to make a plan. But this game, one of the lessons that this game teaches you is that you can have a plan that's awesome, but a lot of times plans go awry and plans can go south, and that is okay.
Even where they're exploring next,
Right.
like, things can change on a
Things
dime.
can change on a dime. And Trickster thrives on, cool, let's do this.
Sure.
Let's do that.
Let's see what
so
happens.
it is a character that you could be like, okay, I have like a general plan. Maybe make a plan 1 turn in advance.
Yeah.
Maybe 2. But just leave it at that. Because you are so random and inconsistent that your inconsistency matches the inconsistency and randomness of the game itself. So, whether it be events or how the invader cards come up or what the fear card does, it's okay to not have a plan. Because you're like, hey, I'm just going to do this, and hey, I'm going to do that. That worked! Sweet!
There's
Yeah,
a freedom there.
Right.
It's hard to be a salty Trickster player.
There's
Because
like
it's like-
not a whole lot of pressure, you know?
It's like, maybe
'Cause
it'll work.
it's not-
It's gonna blight. Oh well.
It's not to your credit or detriment. It's not your fault if, hey, I did this thing and there happened to be a fire element, so we played it.
It's kind of Trickster's fault.
But my
But
point
it's
being,
fun.
like, you didn't know that there was a fire element on that card, so you can't be blamed for it. Like,
And-
well, that's what happened. Okay, cool. We move forward.
And it's fun to push your luck. And I
Yeah.
think Trickster does that a lot more than some other
Yep.
characters do.
There
And
is a
that's
rise of
okay.
adrenaline out of that. As
Yeah.
like Ryan's grabbing the minor power deck
Yeah.
to see if we're gonna blight.
Right.
No fire. Whew.
But you didn't choose to blight, even if
No.
it did. It's like, hey, that's just what happened. Let's just move forward.
Yeah.
And it didn't pop up in our game, but I could see it being a really tense moment when you're close to blighting.
Yeah.
And you play that
Yes.
card. What's it going to be?
It's stressful,
What's it
but
gonna
like
be?
in a fun way.
Yeah.
One thing is really cool, because Ryan, you do like to do this a lot. Even back way back in our hype list days, you love the combo potential. Like, oh, this power plus this power, and if I use this growth, like you did that with Vengeance, and then Vengeance got changed.
Beta Vengeance. So
Beta
strong.
Vengeance. R.I.P. But you can do like the wombo combo of impersonate authority, and
Oh.
then, you know,
Incite the mob.
incite the mob.
It's
And you
so
did that in our
good.
game, and it's so cool.
good. And I say that's the most important lesson because that was the most important lesson for me to learn.
Mm.
Remember, Trickster was dead last in my hype list.
That's right.
Speaking of the hype list.
This is a
back in
character
the day.
that definitely helped me change the way I thought
Yeah.
about what success meant. And it helped me break the perfectionist mindset that I was in. You know?
And that's really cool that a spirit you used to not be excited about, even if it doesn't match your playstyle to a T,
Mhm.
can end up so high on a list like this.
Yep.
So
Yep,
great for new
that's
players.
why
Yeah.
it was important for me, that lesson I mean.
Yeah.
Learning to let go of the perfectionist. I never want to blight. I want to be calculated with everything. It's, hey, roll with it.
Because seeing you play that in our game, you were having a blast, dude.
It was
You
great.
were having so much fun with Trickster.
When you have that luck, oh my goodness.
That's true. Take that man to the
It was
casino.
like nothing but triple sevens is all across the
Spend it all on
black. So potential barriers to playing Trickster, I think, from what I've seen, randomness is still inconsistent. Some people, that might bother them a lot. I don't know what kind of player you are. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
Give Trickster to your resident power player and see how
Hey!
they do.
But I think that's more of a you thing. Hey, we'll see what happens. Literally. We'll see what happens.
We don't know.
Some people, that's like, ow, I can't do it. And that's fine. If that's not your playstyle, here's Earth.
Yeah.
Go for it. So it could be a potential barrier. Blight, still scary. It's still scary to a lot of people, but the thing is you could also heal Blight. Hey, well, let's see what happens.
Could happen.
Maybe. It could happen.
They're
You never
all
know.
over the minor
You can
powers.
accidentally save this island as easily as you can accidentally blow it up. So
The funness of Trickster.
Hey.
He is super fun.
Yep. Living with Blight can be uneasy, but you can move your presence around. So, hey, I can just...
I like what you said about that. I think that's very important, the mobility, because some of the base game, there wasn't a lot of them. There's Thunder Speakers, there's some of them, but being able to move almost every turn if you want to, if you always want to pick that option, you can move as much as you want.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because just looking at the track right here, you could move a presence, or you could just add a new presence. And I think a lot of the times, a player would just, well, why move it when I could add a presence in a row?
Yeah.
But you could save your presence from being destroyed. So that's it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens can be confusing, but once you realize what's happening, I don't think it's too bad.
And like you said, once you learn the minor powers better.
Yep. And then that one wonderful thing that you picked up on a while ago is that they thrive on uncertainty.
Yeah.
They can go ahead and keep one of the cards that they randomly played by chucking another one. So they're just like, hey, let's just go this way.
Yeah.
Consistency bores Trickster. Because it costs you energy to get your stuff back, but it costs you no energy
Get something new.
to get something new. Hey!
New thing to play around with.
It's only a 1 energy penalty, but there's the psychology behind it. It's like, you don't want to do that. Just get a new power.
Hey! Yeah.
Hearing Ryan talk about this, would you want to play Trickster?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think he looks like a lot of fun.
And there is my number 2.
My number 2 is... Grinning Trickster.
My number 2 is not that one.
So I don't want to beat a dead,
How about that?
multi-headed monkey spirit, but
They're also in unrelenting growth.
there are...
We just had that on the Discord. We were talking about
Who is the spirit?
I know.
Clearly Trickster. Is it?
What? That's Trickster? Oh, man.
Wait, that's the guy who's all...
Trigon from DC Comics.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
It's an old concept of Trickster.
That's not Trickster.
That's not my Trickster.
That's Trigon.
That is Trigon. I know. I know.
Trickster had 3 heads.
When I was your age, kid. Trickster was a canoe.
This event will certainly date this episode to those who remember that
On the
conversation in the Discord.
So we just spent 20 minutes talking about Trickster, so I don't have too much to add, but there are a few things that I think are great for new players. So first off, immediately begins with 2-card play.
Yes.
Good point.
Yes.
Huge for a new player. You don't have to struggle to pick that one card. You can immediately start with 2. That's nice.
As a Shadows player, you have no idea how important it is to start with 2-card plays.
O.M. goodness.
Not only that, but your power cards are all super self-explanatory.
Okay.
There's not really any wiggle room. It does what it says. Easy
And
to
Bursted
interpret.
Authority.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's same thing with your innates. They're not too complex. Honestly, the most complex thing is probably choosing your growth options and where top track or bottom track, what you want to do. He only uses 2 of the new tokens.
Yeah.
So not a whole lot of plates to spin.
Yeah,
But it
that's
does kind of dip your toes in the water
Yeah.
of the new tokens, which I thought was pretty neat, especially since you played Trickster and I played
Lure. So
That
we had
was
all the tokens
every
covered.
new token. So it was a really good way to teach
Yeah.
me what all the different tokens did.
Yeah.
I was in the game too. I played.
Brian, who's this?
I was.
Oh, hi there.
I was there.
Have you been there this whole time?
It was my house. Dang it!
Oh, hi, Mark.
I hosted this game.
I can barely see you over my monitor here.
I'll just leave, I
I
guess.
remember there was an adorable puppy.
That's my dog.
That's Laura's dog.
I married into the dog.
Everything you bring up, we're shooting down. No.
That was a good
All
game.
in jest.
It
all
was
in
a
jest.
very fun game. John
It
was
was.
there too.
I did fear sometimes.
It was a awesome night. Thank you once again for having us.
Yes, it was very fun.
Of course.
And lastly, so a huge thing about Trickster that makes him great for new players, the randomness of let's see what happens and over-enthusiastic arson takes away that analysis paralysis
Yeah.
for a new player.
Yeah.
You are all about that tonight.
Well, because that's something
That's a big thing to a new player, dude.
it trips me up. There were a lot of times when you
That's
guys...
entirely fair.
There were a lot of times when you guys would look, okay, I'm ready. John's ready. Josh, are you ready? And I was just staring at my growth track. Like,
I did become self-aware about that, where I was just like, all right, I'm ready to go. And I'd be like, okay, John, calm down. Josh is like...
I'm playing with Josh. I need to give it a few minutes.
Not like that, but it's a brand new spirit. We were all playing new characters to you. So
Yeah, so taking
you
away...
didn't know I was in the game. So just things like that.
I was stealing your beasts. You killed one of my presents with disease.
Yeah, remember the disease time?
Remember the time I gave you a thing? And you played that card?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool. Yes, I gave him the boon of bedazzlement.
Yes, and you chose the thing that nobody ever chooses.
Yes,
Yeah.
Ryan, you said you've never seen that before.
Yeah, when it comes to Gift of the Untamed Wild, I always see people use it for the purposes of wild token spawning as opposed to disease token spawning. So that was actually kind of cool to see.
It was one of those things
I mean, it's like every now, occasionally, but I was like, hey, I rarely
wanted
see
to
that.
stop a build early, and I didn't want the game to get too out of hand because I know mine.
No, there's a value there,
Yeah.
and it's important. It's just like one of those things where it's just like, wow, someone used Vengeance of the Dead. Sweet. You know, like that kind of thing. Yeah.
Silly, Ryan. No one uses Vengeance of the Dead.
Every card has its uses, John.
It's got cool art.
It does. It does.
Cool concept behind it.
Call to Trade, like, almost never see that one.
That's a card, right?
Hey, Trickster.
Is that a memory I have, or is that just a dream?
Point being,
It was a whisper.
there are certain powers that all of us in our experience see played a lot. Sometimes there are cards that we don't see played a lot.
Yeah.
I simply rarely see that card used for disease.
It's like when River plays Boon of Vigor on themselves. They're like, I'll get it for 1 energy. Like,
Oh.
I could have used
Okay.
that. Okay.
That was a choice.
Sure.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that's all I got. I just think the randomness is fun for a new player.
Yeah.
Takes away some of those choices and really narrows you into thinking about other things. So you don't have to dwell as long on certain choices.
Yep, I really do think taking away that pressure of the AP analysis paralysis is very valuable.
Because nobody can be mad at you if you
Exactly,
if you
yeah.
let's see what happens, and okay, nothing happens.
Right.
Or,
Oh,
it's a blight.
we move on.
Yeah, so
That's just what we got to deal with.
he just seems fun. He seems very casual and laid back spirit, and it's all part of his theme too, which is just fantastic.
Yep.
He's the lazy trickster.
Yeah,
It was-
for the trickster necessities.
The simple tricks to
As they turn into the canoe that other people are riding on.
Is that canoe have eyes on it? One thing I noticed.
Where did all these holes come from?
Read the lore. Because we talk about, Trickster maybe doesn't help the team a lot, but Ryan, you would throw Strife along my way when something was adjacent because our boards were touching.
Flare for Discord, baby.
And there is a helpfulness in Trickster. Be like, Ryan, I can't get over here. I can't get enough beasts there. And you'd be like, oh yeah, here's a Strife. Because it's adjacent to where you were already putting Strife. So I think that can, again, show the team aspect, cooperativeness of this game and helping other people's boards. My number 2 is Grinning. No, not like this. You're supposed to destroy this.
Not join them. No, you already said Trickster wasn't
It is Stones.
Hey!
Unyielding Defiance.
Nice.
In that same game where I was mentioning, it was me and Laura were playing with Evan. He has a wife. And she was playing Stones Unyielding Defiance. Laura mentioned this in episodes past that she initially struggled. Because Laura was like, well, we're just going to find her moderates. And just give her that. And Laura's like, oh, Jagged Earth moderates are a little bit different than base game moderates. But as the game went on, she did get a better grasp of it. I think a good comparison for me is Stone is like Jagged Earth's version of Vital Strength of the Earth.
Sure.
Kind of.
I see it. Yeah, once you realize the theme of Jagged Earth,
the defensiveness, and any growth option you choose, whether it being growth option 1, 2, or 3, you are placing a presence. Very much like Earth. So you don't feel like you're making the wrong choice. Ryan, you talked about that in our old memories. What drew you to Earth initially is I can grow, but also reclaim. Or I can grow and gain a power card. And every time you are growing. So there is a stability in being able to constantly grow. Another benefit to Stone and newer players, I think the innates are pretty easy to comprehend.
Oh, yeah. And Trigger. Hello.
Yeah.
Look at all this earth that you need. Grab a plant for the end of that one and grab a sun for the end of the other.
Sure. You're gaining power cards like, should I look for
think
earth
so,
elements?
yeah.
I'll look for earth elements.
Yeah.
So, and like Ryan Reicke said, maybe near the end of the game, grab a sun. Why don't you?
Sure. But then one
Maybe
of your
a
tracks
leafy
can give
plant.
you anything. Yeah.
One thing that we all have kind of talked about is blight. And blight is a scary thing for a newer player.
It can be, and it usually is.
Usually is, and with the base game, with the blight cards being what they were, and there weren't a lot of blight using mechanisms.
The base game definitely coaches you away from blight.
I think so.
Yeah.
There are some power cards. There's land thrashes and land thrashes. And they I'm sure there's others.
To name a few.
I'll stop there. Stop.
And even
I could go on. I choose not to.
Okay. But Stone is pretty much immune to blights as long as you don't get outnumbered.
Yep.
And I remember this. I'm going to keep bringing up our hype list. This was something that really made me want to play Stone.
Yeah.
It was
your number one.
It was my number one because I was scared
right.
to play Jagged Earth.
Mm-hmm.
It was something new to me. It was something scary. There was
definitely foreign.
adversaries. Yeah, very foreign. I'm like, Stone seems safe. I don't die to blight unless I get outnumbered.
Right.
I can protect others from blight. The blight doesn't even have to come from the card. The card never has to flip. It can stay healthy because I am pulling it from the box. So I am benefiting the team. The island stays healthy even though it's covered in blight, but we're not having a negative effect from memory fades or downward spiral or tipping point or something. So there was that safety that I still feel that I think could help a newer player. Another thing I think is helpful for Stone, when you are low on energy, that seems to really bum a newer player out. Oh, I can't play this?
Right.
I don't have enough energy, but I have all these cool cards. Or I went for
we
this
talked
major.
about the satisfaction that Earth has when you're like, hey, I got expensive cards, but I can afford it.
Nice.
That's really cathartic. You get to go on a shopping spree. Woohoo!
So starting at 2 energy and only going up from there and having energy boosting growth options is helpful. You can get to, before you know it, 3, 4, 6 energy just from your track.
Seriously.
If you go top track. So I think I've seen that in newer players in our game where Sarah was like, oh, I can afford this major because I am gaining 4 energy a turn. I'm not worried about that. Say like a lightning or a shadows or someone that maybe struggles in the beginning or it's like, I have all these cool cards. Yeah. Can't play them. And that stings.
And that feels so restrictive.
Yeah. And that's just a bad experience for like someone new
I can
to an
do this,
expansion.
which would have saved us there, but I can't. It's in my hand, but I can't play
I'm 1
it.
energy short.
I can't afford it.
So I think it's easier. Gaining 3 energy a turn, honestly, is huge in the early game. Because that can be your first growth option. You just go top track, 3 energy, you're uncovering. And what I've seen, and for me as a player, it's like, oh, I can pay and play these cards.
Yeah.
I also think, again, we are introducing Badlands. So introducing that new token, understanding it, how it can be used, how you can stack damage, how you can move to Han around to get away from it. I'm talking about Jagged Shards push from the Earth. It's a 0 costing slow power. You get to add a Badlands and push 2 Dahan out of it. You're getting them away from the extra damage, and you are setting up a depot of pain, really.
This was actually the spirit that taught me about Badlands, because Laura played it that one game.
Oh, in our Hasper game.
And we were adjacent.
So, okay.
So she was popping Badlands up even on my board, I think.
Yeah, she was. And what did you notice from that in being in a game with Stone?
Well, she killed a lot of stuff.
Okay.
I had my hands full that game, but he seemed very strong.
I distinctly remember you using Creeper's Terran and Mortar on a land that had Badlands in it. You're like, hey, these Badlands are cool.
I get to do extra
one damage
now.
there it goes to town.
That's pretty good.
I think this form of defense is very, again, satisfying.
Unorthodox.
It's unorthodox, but you don't
remember that sequence we talked about? How does Earth keep a land clear? I'm going to defend the land with damage.
I defend 4. Nice.
Land's clear. Cool. How does Stone defend damage? Well, I'm actually going to let the attack go through so that the blight can come in. I actually don't die, nor do any of my friends. They don't die either. So then what's going to happen is I'm going to go and use that attack damage, reflect it, use this as an opportunity to use my power cards, which require blight in order to go off so I can attack them, kill them. Now that the bad guys are gone, I'm going to go ahead and remove that blight later. And now the land's clear.
It's a few more steps.
Hey!
Well, I know Laura was doing some pretty stupid damage at the end.
So, again, I think...
just by reflecting it all right back into...
Well, that's the thing that's so cool with Stone, is that the more bad guys are out there, you're like, oh crap, I need a bigger damage card. You have a mirror. You know?
Let them break themselves against the stone.
Which is such a cool name.
It scales, because the thing is, it is just as effective no matter how many bad guys there are.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
And then you get to repeat it. So I think it's a cool visual. Obviously, you remembered it of Laura throwing that damage back at them. And that is something, like you said, it's unorthodox, but it is cool as a newer player. Again, you're doing something pretty grand, pretty epic. You're throwing their damage back at them. They're breaking themselves against it.
No, you.
No, but you.
From respect to you.
Uno card.
Earlier, I talked about a theme. My theme, and this is why, spoilers, I kind of stayed away from lure when it came to this list for me. Okay. I think I liked focusing on offensive characters that work in the fast and the slow phase. I think that helps fresher player, lower player count player, where they can either plan out over 2 different phases, or you have something to do in each phase, and you don't feel lopsided one way, or I'm not doing anything until the slow phase, I'll just sit in my hands. I think offense is cool. It's easy to comprehend, and then being able to do things in both phases is helpful. At least for me, it was very helpful as a player when I was first starting out.
Right on.
So sorry for dissing on Lure.
Like I said, if I hadn't played him, I probably wouldn't have put him on here.
I think Lure's obviously very strong. And like Ryan said, like any spirit you pick up, you might just take 2. And these lists are very arbitrary. But in my experience and what I've seen in other newer players, if they are waiting until I don't do anything in the slow phase, sometimes they check out or they feel like they're not helping to the team at all.
Even as a not new player, newish, that still kind of felt bad at first when I wasn't quite sure how to use it. So fast powers definitely help.
Yeah, so that was something I tried to look for. You know, you have some cool defend powers. You have, you know, let them break themselves against stone. That's a fast power. It's happening during the Ravage, so it's keeping you engaged, and it feels like you're being part of the team in both phases.
Yeah.
So
the fast and slow powers, I know this is something we talked about last time, but it can be something tricky for new players to kind of grasp. So if they have all slows, it's kind of tricky.
Yeah. Obviously, for experienced players, it's like a slow power is just a fast power.
Yep. A slow power may be more effective when you start to view it in the lens of this is faster than next turn's fast.
Exactly.
Meaning, with this game, probably my number one advice I give to people is to succeed with Spirit Island, you shouldn't be reactive, you should be proactive.
Yeah, the rulebook even says as much.
Meaning, if they're about to hit you, honestly, let them. Worry about their next hit, not the one that's about to hit you. So slow powers, you can ignore what they're about to do to you.
Yeah.
Start to worry about what they're going to do to you. And slow powers are a great way to take care of those kind of problems.
Yeah.
Move bad guys, but it's a slow power. Yeah, which means next turn's build you can nix or something. And I think that's helpful, but that's a different topic. But
one last thing. I think with a newer spirit, sometimes you have really complicated rules or strategies that you have to, wait, blight is good for vengeance? Or I have to keep things alive and gain energy and fear from them. It's just like, it's hard to wrap your mind around. I think Stone has pretty easy special rules. Blight can outnumber your presence, and you get to gain a minor power if you go top track and expose one of the top track ones. I think that's very simple. It's like, Blight can outnumber me. Oh, and I get a minor power this turn. Cool. So I think it's an easy thing to comprehend. You're just looking at earth elements. It's just, when you're picking cards, again, analysis paralysis, like, oh, I get to pick earth. Cool. There it is.
There it is.
I picked that card. It has my element.
Yeah, and elements are one of those things, too, that can trip up newer players.
Not if you're Stone.
Exactly.
You got one element to worry about for a while.
Yeah, you don't really have to worry about that too much.
A whole bunch of earth, baby.
So, there you go.
Something about offense, I think, really speaks to newer players in what I've seen. Control sometimes, like, falls flat.
Control and fear are the last things that people, in my experience...
Why would I push them when I could kill them?
Yeah. Right. It was tough. I played a game with a newer player, and I gave them River, and River's like my baby. Like, oh, you're going to love the spirit. It's awesome. And they hated River. There's like, what do you mean I get to push things? And you just blew something up. Like, yeah, but you push it so they don't build, and then it just turns a city, and you know, you group up. There's like,
I mean, there comes a point where a Spirit Island player, when they're new, realizes, oh, bad guys only matter at certain times. Because they see bad guys on the field, and they're like, oh, we're going to lose.
Oh, that's a whole bunch of white plastic.
Yeah.
And there's a strange thing that goes through their mind when you tell them, you can win this game without killing a single bad guy. What?
It can happen.
What? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You can scare them. You can control them. Yeah. Find your players. Ocean players.
Yeah, you kind of have to.
Many Minds players. Yeah. Bringer players. Like,
Yeah, I suppose so.
It's a thing.
Did you say ocean doesn't kill people?
You definitely can. I'm talking about players who can win a game without doing something that a newer player would think is common. Like reaching all over this board. Not being able to go here. Not being able to kill everyone. Maybe only doing a tiny bit of this or a tiny bit of that.
Right.
Because you're doing something else.
Reframing how you thought about the game.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I think Stone, really good for a new player, and you'll feel powerful. Stone, I think, is a very strong spirit. You won't feel weak. You'll feel like you're doing something every single turn. You're helping the team. You're not making the island card flip over, the blight card. So
stubborn solidity is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a very strong power. So yeah, good spirit, I think, in the hands of a newer player.
And now, number 1.
My poor.
Who is it going to be?
Number 1. This one was, before I wrote any down, and I was clicking my way, looking at all the spirits, As soon as I saw this one, I wrote him down as my number 1 before anything else. Even before I put Lure on the list.
Okay.
The one that I've played.
Yeah.
And that is Shifting Memory of the Ages.
Nice. Nice.
As the best.
Okay.
And reason being, so his growth options and his growth track. Super simple. Pick one. All 4 options are good. Gain 9 energy.
That energy spike.
Yes, please.
Insane.
Combo that with Boon of Ancient Memories to pick up a major.
Yeah, and not forget a card.
Yeah.
He doesn't forget, and that's something as a new player. It's like, I don't want to forget powers.
Yeah.
The second game I ever played,
Oh, yeah.
I lost because I hung on to all my minors, and in the late game I didn't have any majors.
I don't want to forget powers.
Yeah, because I didn't want to get rid of any.
I agree. I remember my first game actually playing with Ryan. I was going for a major, and Ryan, you're like, you're going to have to forget him. I'm like, it almost took my breath away. It was just like, forget who I am. It's like, but I like this power. I like props with her. Yeah.
Right.
Why must you take this from me?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's,
and even if you're forgetting a power card that wasn't one of your starting ones, you're like, but I like this one.
yeah, it's like, but I've been using this minor
I chose
power.
this one out of a selection of 4 because I liked it so much.
But now I have to get rid of it?
No. Not only that, but you can give it to other players too, which is super helpful. So he's good on defense.
Yeah.
Great on energy, which, like you said, new players, they don't want to run out of energy.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, you want to be able to play your cards. So, and you might have to take a turn off to gather that energy, but that's okay because next turn you can have enough to last you 2, 3
A while.
turns.
Especially if you go the 9 spike. Jeez.
Absolutely, yeah. From a personal standpoint, he does everything that I love.
What's that?
That is defense. Never runs out of energy. Protects Dahan. Doesn't forget his power cards and plays well with others.
Aww.
So it's just a whole bunch of good. I think new players are drawn to that, and I really don't think that he's too complex. I think you could just pick him up and play, even if it's your first game ever.
Listeners at home, if you listen to our Eric Royce interview,
Hey.
Shifting Memory was originally planned for low complexity spirits.
Okay, well that makes sense.
The only one that was originally low.
But
that's why he appeals to me.
Hey!
my hang-up, for me when I played Shifting Memory, and I was pretty experienced at the time when we got Jagged Earth, was the element tracking and like holding onto it and planning ahead. For some reason that was, I don't know, it's a struggle at times. And especially the second innate, observe the ever-changing world. So the first tier is pretty easy, just prepare one element. Second one, where you have to keep track of land and see what's moving in and out. For some reason, I would be like, oh, I forgot, did something happen here? Did anyone check that?
Yeah, that's the only thing on his board that I had to reread a few times before I kind of got it.
Okay.
It is a little wordy and a little tricky, but
it's a paragraph.
If you can just grasp that one thing, everything else should come pretty naturally.
Okay. That's true. Yeah, it was just kind of that one thing I'm like, oh, shoot, I forgot to keep track of that land and how much changed here.
That's probably the only thing that elevates him above as beginner spirit.
Okay.
That keeping track of your element tokens.
Okay. Yep. And planning ahead. But it is fun to play majors.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And he seems really fun. I really look forward to playing him.
I think the same way that Ryan was talking about Trickster learning the minor power, dude, Shifting can learn the majors. It's like that.
Oh, totally.
Like, oh, I know this is going to come up, or, Pent Up hasn't shown up yet.
Yeah.
I like Jungle Hunters.
Or your favorite, Winds of Rust and Atrophy.
I love Winds of Rust and Atrophy. Love that card. So you get to learn the major powers, and there's less of them, so you can kind of sift through them a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's my number one.
Number one.
Yeah.
I have to agree. It was tough. Shifting didn't make my list.
Oh.
No.
So who was your number one?
I'm so curious.
I feel like I thought we were going to be a little bit more, different. We all kind of agreed on some of these. So
like
this
we said, there's a batch of 5 spirits. It's like, it's one of these.
This is why I'm a little bit worried about this one. Don't burn me at the stake. I will explain.
I think I
Pitchforks
might.
ready, Ryan.
I will say, I think the hardest spirit, and it's not even in Jagged Earth, take your time with Finder. I love that spirit. But I think that might be the toughest spirit in the game. Yeah, no, I'm still learning that spirit.
Yeah.
Okay, that being said.
I thought that was your number one.
No, I love Finder, but I'm still learning with Finder.
But Finder and Downport can't be used because they're promo pack.
They're in the
promo pack 2.
2.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Brave Games.
Hey.
Okay. It's Starlight
Season. I knew it! No, yes, I did!
You madman.
I didn't want to give it away, but I was mouthing to him. I was like, starts with an S. I knew it.
So,
I knew it.
It's a spirit, very high complexity. Maybe.
I knew it.
I made a joke about this earlier.
You did. I feel dumb.
Oh man, I'm looking at my program here. There's so much red on the microphone.
I'm sorry. You called my bluff.
I let you
Liar.
say liar. I see you through the lies of the John.
Liar.
I no longer fear the complexity as you do.
Okay, so you look at that spirit panel. It's a little intimidating.
It can be, yeah.
I like giving analogies.
Sure.
Starlight seeks its form, or metaphors, is you walking into a buffet.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So much.
Yep.
There's hundreds of food options. How am I going to do all this? You end up with 4 things on your plate and you eat it.
Yep.
So I think that is Starlight. It's basically a big funnel. You are overwhelmed with choices, but as the game goes on, you kind of get pigeonholed into what you become. Into your build.
Yeah, you plinko down.
Josh, tell me about the first time you saw the spirit panel of Starlight.
The first time Ryan showed me Starlight's board, I think I had a stroke. He started licking walls, and Ryan had to resuscitate.
So, good for newer players?
That's a bold choice, but I'm really curious why you would choose Starlight.
All right. So I think there's so many options, and we are talking about different players will connect with different spirits. Starlight, any player. I like control. Boom, I can make Starlight control a spirit. You like defense? You can go Earth and defend 5 and land. Or you're scared of Blight. You can gather water cards and clean up. Honestly, Starlight, one of the best Blight removers in the entire game.
Certainly can be.
So there's Peace of the Nighttime Sky. I think this is a very good card for either a newer player or someone who's overwhelmed. Just, they don't ravage.
Yep.
And if you want to, you know what? Just repeat it.
Yep.
Someone else doesn't ravage. Ryan, you've always talked about in the early stages of the game, unless it's a weird invader action event, who knows, they're ravaging in 2 lands. And you can stop both of them. Obviously, you have to forget the card if you do, but, turn 2, if you're overwhelmed, just play Peace of the Nighttime Sky.
Yep. And if you don't want to lose it, play that card and then just go for some Earth Elements.
Yeah, defend somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a one and done panic button.
It is. I mean, you can keep it, but yeah, it can be a one and done. What is scaring you?
The growth options of Starlight are...
There's only how many?
What's the
John,
word?
you madman.
How many dwarfs are in the Hobbit? There's a lot.
Okay.
And it's a lot to take in, especially if you're someone like me who spends a long time in the growth phase.
You talk about analysis paralysis, right?
I do.
And you're scared of this.
You called?
Starlight, I think Starlight aids in that. What's one thing you do in the growth? You pick power cards, typically. On reclaiming, or you get to gain a power. It is something that most spirits can do or do throughout the game. With Starlight, I feel like that picking of cards, you can not be limited in your choices. Whenever I'm playing Shadows, I'm looking for moon, fire.
No, seriously.
I need it.
That fire is so good. Air also.
I don't care what the card does. If it has that, I can better trigger my innate. Or it's a fear card, typically.
Steam vents.
Yeah, exactly. If it has a fire element, or if it has a moon, those are something I need, and I'm so forced to pick those options. With Starlight, maybe I can defend, and I can pick a card that doesn't really have my elements, but, oh wait, I can form the spirit to use plants, or to use earth. And so I can pick more based on the need, and not just whatever my spirit uses innately, because I have 8 innates that I can pick from.
Yep.
Does that, appease your mind at all?
That does. It's a lot to keep track of, but once you start, like you said, funneling it down...
She's
the
game
most
goes on.
versatile spirit in the game, probably, right?
Yeah,
I'd
at
say
least
so.
most
I could
flexible.
say so. Yep.
Yeah, so I can see that, and once you do specialize in your thing, or if you have multiple fingers and multiple pies, I could see it being simpler
Okay.
for a new player.
I think...
Who's not
Literally the highest complexity. As the
but
greatest
foolish.
But foolish.
All right, special rules. They're easy. It just says you have 6 growth tracks. Cool. All right, there's a bunch. And then the second special rule...
Easy!
Easy! Second special rule, they show this little star thing and says, you get to place an element marker and it's permanent. I mean, that's not difficult to comprehend.
If you're used to Scantrons, it's going to be easy.
Yeah, you just get to fill in the circle.
And once you put that element marker down, that's what it makes. Is that correct?
That
For the
is,
rest of the game?
yeah, it is for the rest of the game.
So it locks you into your choice.
So
Again, we're being funneled into one specific type.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think there isn't a bad build, because honestly, every innate is useful. So in the early game, you're basically going to trigger the moon ones, and that's just moving explorers around. So hopefully you're preventing builds, or you're setting up to Han. But as the game goes on, maybe you do lean air and you can move towns around. Maybe you do pick up some animals you can move to Han, or it can make them do damage. I personally like the Sun Elements one.
Oh, yeah.
It is one that I did my first game, and it's something I continue to do because I love this playstyle. I'm getting more into it, is Fear. And you get to gain 1 energy, and you get to reclaim a power card.
That's
so it
good.
It just does so much.
That's good.
I think...
But it's not a part of your no reclaim. Your infamous no reclaim.
I love my no reclaim builds!
John and Lauren and Tim are like,
go with
please,
that?
John, play that card again. You're like, I'm sorry, I can't.
I did a meme build where I played Starlight and never reclaimed once, and I just kept getting new power cards.
And all his teammates were like, please, John, please play that card again. He's like, no.
I picked up power.
No.
So maybe I could have done better. I think that's definitely a meme build.
So, you may make a convert out of me yet.
Okay.
Because those
Every
innate
spirit
look
can be
really
played.
cool.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
when you play Starlight,
Yes.
do you try to trigger multiple? Do you branch out, or do you pinhole it?
I
Up to
try.
you.
Yeah.
Part of the choice of that character.
Yeah.
Pigeonhole it, not pinhole.
I try to at least trigger 1 or 2 every single turn. And maybe if like a 3rd or 4th come up, dude, that's awesome. And I think that'd be cool to trigger all of them, but I at least try and be like, I want to get my sun every single turn. And that doesn't mean I'm getting 3 sun for my tracks, but maybe like 1 or 2. I always pick cards that trigger that.
Right.
I do want to keep at least some sort of build. I think that helps the team too.
And that really frees you up, and you can kind of choose to build after you've seen some power cards.
Yeah.
And I can see how this could be good for a beginner, actually.
Starlight can just delve through the power decks, too.
Because, Ryan, as you mentioned,
Boon of Reimagining.
such a cool card. Target spirit, and it's any. It doesn't have to be another. So you can focus on yourself, or you can, boon the team. But target spirit may forget a power card from the hand or discard. If they do, they draw 6 minor powers, and then you get to gain 2 of them.
And it's 1 energy.
And it's really cool art of this little teddy bear.
That's really cool.
I mean, it's a big bear, but it's just really cool.
Yeah, I didn't know they had that card. That's
So,
cool.
like you said, you can just sift through the deck, and you can, pick of the litter, really.
Yeah, you're getting the elements you need.
Yeah, every single turn. And you can go for card plays, you can go for extra card plays, you can go for energy. So you can kind of make it what you want it to be. It's one of those things where if you make a meal you don't like it, well, you're the one that made it. If you don't like Starlight, it's kind of on you because you're the one who built that spirit.
I gotcha.
So I think we all bring up, like, what are some hesitations of Starlight? Maybe it's a very high complexity would be one negative.
Maybe it's the highest complexity character in the game.
Potentially that could be scary to a newer player. I think for me, the biggest hang-up, I forget this, not all the time, but it comes up, you have pick 3.
Yeah. Only character in the game so far.
So far, for me, I'm so used to picking 2. I don't know if it's for anyone else, but I'm like, oh yeah, I'd pick this and this. Like, oh yeah, and a third thing. Ryan, you talked about...
I like picking 1.
I have to do more
You'll
than
get
one.
there. Don't worry.
Ryan has talked about how he likes to use that third one as almost a bonus. Like,
Yep.
he knows what to do for 1 and 2. And I learned that as well. It's like, I need to reclaim or I need to gain energy this turn. And
So
maybe
often I use that third for a reclaim 1 to grab a clutch card again.
that you found along the
Which
way.
was either Boon of Reimagining or in the early game, it was Piece of the Nighttime Sky.
Again, it's the safety net is built there, I think, for a newer player. And it kind of shows you just, I don't know, the grandness of Jagged Earth. Anything that you can be. You can sift through all the powers that you want.
Not only that, if you're a new player and you play Starlight,
Yeah.
after that, you could probably play anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take on the world.
Right. It's like when I went to Cedar Point, I rode the Dragster first.
Whoa.
Oh,
Whoa.
yeah.
And everything
All
after
downhill
that,
from there,
yeah, it was
baby.
all downhill from there.
Oh,
All right, you got
downhill
to
from
explain
there,
that we have
baby.
many people that are not from the Cleveland
Oh,
area.
I'm sorry. It's a big roller coaster that goes very fast.
Very fast and very high. It's one of
It's
the
over-
world's tallest roller coasters.
It's over in like 6 seconds or something stupid.
I believe the whole thing is 17 seconds from start to finish.
Yeah, I just
And you
remember
go
being,
from 0 to 260 in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, you're going hundreds of miles an hour. You're going
And then it
hundreds
shoots you
of feet in
straight
the air.
up.
Yeah.
I remember being
Oh, it's so good.
I remember being at the bottom, being at the top, and being at the bottom again.
And
But
we're
once,
done.
but once you ride that, like you said, you can ride anything.
Yeah, so if you tackle this spirit and you figure her out,
Yeah.
I'd say you're set.
Yeah.
And my theme was I like being able to do things in multiple stages. I think Starlight can do things in the growth. You can do 2 damage in the growth phase. right?
Very much so.
Yes, okay.
Like wildfire.
Burrito.
Yep.
All right, John.
But it's a great choice because you either do that or you can make any slow power fast.
Or you get an extra card play. You can do things in the slow phase. You can do things in the fast phase. You can defend. You can remove blade. I feel like this is a very good team spirit, and you
It could be anything.
You can be anything.
Hybrid build, majors build,
Sure,
minor
why
spam,
not?
blight removal, fear,
Anything, yeah.
No
damage.
matter the play style of who's playing it. So yeah, John, you've convinced me. I take back all the bad things I've said about you.
high five. Starlight, seat 6.
I remember when Laura played Starlight and she was just...
That was rough. I'll take Thunder
just-
Speaker.
She had no idea what to do. It was just brick wall.
It's not for everyone, but I think, like you said, if you can handle Starlight, you can handle Jagged Earth.
I like it.
And I put
I
my
like
stamp on that. Ryan,
The moment
What
of
is-
anticipation.
here we go.
My number one for who I think is probably the best spirit to play as for a new beginner player. Shifting Memory
Whoa!
of Ages.
That's a good capper, yes.
Fine choice.
You're biased.
Yes, the character that was originally intended to be low complexity until the element thing boosted them up to moderate. Shifting Memory can teach the value of so many things to the player, so there is much that when you were talking, I was just...
I agree.
Yeah. I'll get
You
on
are
it.
correct, sir.
So I just had to poker face my way through that one. But yes, I think that Shifting Memory teaches the value of majors. John, you said the one thing I was going to say also. In the exact same way that Grinning Trickster can teach you the minor power deck and how useful that is.
Yeah.
Also, what's in there? Shifting Memory can teach you, hey, what are these majors? What do they actually do? What's in there? Oh my gosh, that was
Whoa.
insane. I just destroyed a board.
Is that a black hole?
What?
And you can yank your first major on turn 1.
You certainly can.
Which is
Without forgetting anything.
bonkers.
Which is absolutely insane.
Feels good, man.
It does. And so another lesson that they can teach is, once again, the value of Dahan.
Yes.
Because Secrets of Survival can move Dahan or keep them alive, so you can see, hey, these peeps are awesome. How much damage they can do with just 2 of them. You can do 4 damage. Hey, there goes a City and Explorer. Sweet.
I love those cards because I love Concealing Shadows for shadows, or Stone has Stubborn Solidity.
I was just chuckling at that art.
But cards that like Ultra Protect Dahan, I love.
Mm-hmm. So that is a card that Memory has that I think, in addition with their defense innate that they have, as well as Secrets of Survival, can display to the player how good Dahan can be. But they can also teach you the value of fear cards. Because with Study Invader's Fears, you can generate fear, but you can also see what the fear card that is next actually is.
Yeah.
Bringer can do this, but it can tell you, the player, hey, these things are actually cool. Look at this power card that's coming up. It's a fear card, but it's basically a power card because you can calibrate the board to make use of it as much as you can. You can make a plan for this fear card that's upcoming.
And that doesn't seem like much, but there are a lot of situations where a feared card comes up and it's like, I got rid of an Explorer, but it could have gotten rid of so much more. Planning around that's huge.
I think it's one of the strongest powers in the game. That power card and what Bringer can do. Being able to plan, especially as the terror level goes up. If we're talking terror level 3, you can win the game just by planning around 1 fear card.
Hey, I don't need to defend because we're about to get free defense.
Exactly.
Or,
Dahan.
word in the other way, crap, I didn't need to play this defend card because we got defense.
What a waste of a power. But had you known,
Exactly.
you could have saved something and you played something else. I love these powers.
So, Shifting Memory can teach you the value of fear cards.
Yeah.
Shifting Memory can also teach you the value of an energy spike. And my, oh my, what an energy spike it is.
The biggest energy spike in the game.
Freaking 9
Unlimited
power! See, the thing about energy in this game is regardless of when you get it, regardless of how much it was, or to whom it was given, it will always be useful. Why? Because energy is always useful. So, even if it's 1 energy, sweet. 2, sweet.
Sure.
3, sweet. 9, sweet. So,
Super sweet.
the thing that's so dope, though, is that you can go ahead and grab that 9 energy spike, grab a major very early on in the game, and even if it's one of the most expensive cards in the game, or even a collection of cards, you can still use it very easy. But this also provides you the next lesson, which is...
Wait, before we move on from energy, one thing I've noticed, I like having shifting memory in my games where I'm playing with events, because during choice events, you either have to pay with energy or with elements.
Money.
Hey, look, shifting's got both.
Hey, yep.
Just breaks out the wall.
It's like,
That's
how much does this cost?
And that's one of the choices that you have, because the energy spike, as great as it is, doesn't let you grow.
You gotta take a turn
Just
off.
like with all the other stone and rock characters, every growth option gives you presence placement.
Nice.
Except for this energy spike. So it is valuable, but the other actions let you grow.
Which is
so do
also
you go
very
for
valuable.
short-term quick gain, or do you go for long-term consistency and being able to afford stuff later?
What do you guys prefer? Because, like, when I look at the spirit, I'm kind of thinking, get energy turn 1,
Okay.
and that'll fuel my next, like, 3 turns that I grow.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys play it?
I've done a multitude. I think I like the slow build.
Mm.
But it is fun. I have done that where you get 9 energy turn 1, and then like turn 2, I go for a major, and just whatever that is I
That
play.
is so cool.
So I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. I guess I am more like slow methodical at times. Or I guess it depends on the mood. Ryan?
So...
Which leads you to Ryan's next point.
if you know me, you know that I hate. Oh, I hate one card play. So I never do the energy spike first because I get my second card play immediately.
I should have known.
Immediately. Oh, I hate one card play so much. If a character has 1, I'm like, what do I need to do to get to 2 as fast as freaking possible?
Ryan, even turn 1, like not much is happening turn 1. They're not even ravaging
Nope.
yet. Okay.
Nope.
All
I do
right.
not care. I do the energy spiking action every now and then, but not turn 1. Card play is so much more valuable to me than energy spiking. Besides, you can do growth option 3 where I can get both energy and a presence. Because the thing is I'm going to be finding cards that can do cool things because I can get elements for them. 1 card. Oh, no. So that is why I shouldn't say always, but I very, very often do my best to get to 2 card play ASAP.
I will say, in my times of playing memory, I've never gotten to 3 card plays. I go to 2
Yeah.
like Ryan, and then straight down the top!
Which is fair. Usually it's a hybrid build, and as the situation dictates, I can go and use an energy spike. And the thing that's so great about it is because it is so high in value at 9, you can do it once and be fine for like 2, 3, 4 turns, depending on the cards that you have.
Yeah.
So it is really cool that you have the choice that you can be like, hey, let's go see what we can find, and let's go for it. Unfortunately, the more times you do that, the less your late game becomes. And memory has one of the most fearsome late games ever. It is insane and ridiculous how powerful they can get. But you will never get there if you constantly spam that spike. And so I'm usually that long-term playstyle. But like I said, it kind of depends on the situation that I'm in. But there's a choice there with that energy spike. And it really gets you some fun, like look at the discussion we're already having. And that's a cool choice that's available to the player that's like, ooh, cool. It's not the craziest, most difficult choice, but it is still a choice. And so that's really fun.
I think a new player, that 9 energy will seem tempting.
Oh, yeah.
But for a newer player, I'd say the 2 card play is probably the way to go, because you're not going to run into that frustration of, I want to play these 2 cards, because you're going to get the energy eventually.
It's really cool to do one thing that's huge in a land, but then once you realize you did one thing, and it's like, cool, Bob, 5 other things went by, you're like,
But they didn't build here.
Hey!
This land is dead.
Usually, for me, whenever I do go that major early thing, they gain progress elsewhere that it's like, it's
Was it
not
worth it?
really worth it to hit them so heavy this fast that they were able to make progress elsewhere. But, you know, like, that completely depends on your situation, and what you find is a completely different thing. Like, if you found unrelenting growth early,
I was about to say,
BGG.
Maybe
Yep.
it's easy for me to think like, oh, it'd be super cool to get a super destructive card.
Oh, yeah.
But if you get a super powerful support card,
Infinite Vitality?
yeah,
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that, right off rip, you're set for
You're
the rest
set.
of the
Yeah.
game.
It's
'cause
a
you're just
risk.
gonna be
It's
using
a
that
risk.
card.
Shifting memory, I kind of have in the same ballpark designation as Trickster or
Good.
Casino Starlight.
I agree.
Because there's so much randomness to the Spirit. Because it's so much about what you find. So, the next lesson that they teach is element management. For lo, elements work just a wee little bit different for this character.
You get to storm up.
You get to storm up, but here's another choice. Do you go selfish memory or selfless memory?
So I've never played with a selfless memory.
Really?
I feel like they always keep it for themselves. Like, I could help you, but I
Because
don't.
here's the
They're
thing
always
that's-
so selfish. They're like, but my majors need these.
the question of team play or self-help. Both are very strong,
Yeah.
and both have their merits. I remember the first game I did a self-help build, and I didn't do team play, because the
Yeah.
first time we played Shifting Memory was in our second wave campaign.
Oh yeah,
I was-
hey, back.
Giving out the elements to everyone. Like, hey, I'll take one for
choose
myself.
to ignore that game.
And I was like, okay, well, let me go try and do a self-help thing, just to see what it's like, so I can hit the thresholds of my own power.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Memory
strong.
had a notable power spike when they were just giving it to themselves.
Okay.
But that's an interesting choice now. Do I give it to my friends or do I give it to myself? Because if I give it to myself, let me check the thresholds I have. Well, that completely depends on the powers I have.
Yeah.
Are the thresholds for the powers you have crazy necessary for the game at hand? If not, maybe give it to someone else.
It
If they
depends,
are,
yeah.
ooh, okay, keep them.
And it could
Wow.
be your team too. If you have a serpent that's building towards the snake quake,
Mm.
yeah, definitely please help them out.
And it can be surprising how far giving just one or two elements is to a friend. Whether you are Bringer, whether you found Elemental Boon, or you are playing as Shifting Memory. It's like, ooh, having your friends reach their elemental thresholds or the next one because they're really close can
Yeah.
have some dangerous potential.
I mean, we talked about shadows and that elusive fire element. If you just give shadows one fire,
Yeah.
like the things you can do.
And in this game, it's kind of cool to see that fence of team play versus self-help.
Yes.
Because like we said, both have their merits and both can be incredibly strong. And you get to choose which one you get to do. You get to choose which one you get to be. So it's like, that's a fun choice. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
it's kind of fun and enigmatic.
I think one thing you had mentioned in the past, Josh, is being able to grow while reclaiming. And just what a
Yes.
safety net that
Because
is.
there's a lot of times with characters like Lightning or some other ones where you want to do both. You have to choose.
Yeah, lightning's very tough. You can only get a card when you're reclaiming.
But in this case, growing and reclaiming, if you're in a good spot, I'm just going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
So-
I'll just make a sacred site here and place another one right there.
Yeah. I like sacred sites. So
Once again, they also teach you the value of blight and it being out there. Because seeing how you have kind of a random card thing, there's a moment in Shifting Memory's early game where a few attacks can go through. And so it's like, well, I can keep Dahan alive with Share Secrets of Survival, which means I'm letting. Because when do Dahan take damage? When they ravage. And if I kept them alive, that means that
It wasn't a defense.
it wasn't a defense.
okay.
So, there can be like this, hey, it's okay, blight isn't so bad because, look, I let a few go through, that's fine. And so, once again, as it was with every single one of the spirits on these lists, because they're Jagged Earth spirits, living with blight, coexisting with blight, and having it on the field isn't the worst.
Yeah.
Still something to be cognizant of, but still something that's like, hey, it's okay to dabble with it.
Now, would that allow the Dahan to swing back?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, they counterattack, but there's a cost to it in the same way that Shadows
So you
has.
still blight, but you can deal some damage defensively.
But those surviving Dahan can take out cities, towns.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
that's-
Because it's
that
2.
seems
That
good.
means a
And
city
it's-
can die.
And it's 0 energy.
Which is another reason
All
why
of his
I
cards
don't
are
mind
large.
passing on that first energy spike, because that one's free.
Right. 3 of his starting cards cost 0, and 1
Yep.
costs 1, and he has a
Yep.
growth option that gives him some 9
Yep.
energy. He's just
Yep.
asking for majors.
Needs
Yep.
majors, right.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the potential barriers for memory, preparing elements will probably be a little unorthodox, because literally no one does that. So when you're like, wait, how does this work? And, oh, this is what your character does. It's not like, oh yeah, it's a familiar thing to all of us, but it's not actually the worst.
It's not the worst.
No,
It's
it's
not the
his
worst.
gimmick.
Yep, blight can still, as it always has, be scary to newer players. That's just something that's a double-edged sword. Living with Blight is okay, but Blight is still scary. That's a thing that, like, we have to be patient with newer players because they see, like, that's literally a loss condition.
Yeah.
That is literally a loss condition. And if all of us are being okay with it, then that means that there's a slippery slope. And it's like, well, that slippery slope changes in the mentality of everyone as the game progresses, the more and more Blight is out there.
Mm-hmm.
But still, always remember, Blight can still be scary no matter who you're playing with, as far as like what spirits, if you have a newer player. That's something you just always got to be cognizant of. Just like what you said, John, understanding actions correctly. What the heck? I've never even seen that printed. Oh, wait, what?
Whoa?
Of course, if you were reading the book from cover to cover, then you'd figure that out too. You'd understand what actions are. But never before have we had to really care about actions. Because observe the ever-changing world can be pretty confusing. At first, you're like, oh yeah, bank an element. Cool. But then it's like, wait.
Yeah,
I have to mark a land.
You said you had to reread that a couple times.
Because it's so easy to forget when you tag a land, and then you have to remember that for future things. Foreboding Shadows players will do this with their new innate that they get. So if you're familiar with them, that can be somewhat familiar. But the thing is, oh, a Dahan moved out of there. Okay, that's
an action.
That was an action. Oh, an Explorer went in there. Oh, that changed. Oh, we killed one in there. Okay, that changed. But usually, when you play a power, you do the power. As far as, like,
it happens immediately, yeah.
And then it happens, or it'll happen in the slow
Steam
phase.
vents, explore dice.
It's not something that is common to have a power that's just, well, you just watch that land. And
keep an eye on
you
this.
have to be vigilant in your mind. Oh, something happened. Ah, right. So yes.
He's got some bookkeeping to do.
Please place a reminder token.
Yes.
Please.
It seems like a dice there would be
something
essential.
Something to remind you, like Ryan said, I do that with Foreboding all the time. Place something there to be like, this is the land I need to keep track of this turn.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unless I'm just being a dingus, which is quite possible.
Could be happening.
What is the advantage to waiting after the 3 actions to then collect that element token? Just more...
Because level 1 gave you 1 element. This one, with your bookkeeping, can give you 3 elements. So you can get a ton more. 1 element versus 3. But it's going to require you to do some bookkeeping. Yep. But more elements is huge.
I read that completely wrong. After each of the next 3 actions. I thought it was after 3 actions, gain 1. That makes sense.
Why mess around with this? Just play Starlight. There's no hang up there.
John's correct. You win.
Why read the fine print? I'm kidding.
So then the last potential barrier for memory, having a abysmal starting hand that doesn't do hardly anything. Easily the worst hand
I said
in the
looking
game.
at your cards is cool, Ryan.
You have 6 powers. 2 of them affect the board, and 1 of them will make you blight. You can have...
But power card.
1 of your innates does something, the other innate doesn't do anything. You have 4 cards. 3 of them don't do anything.
You get together
they can do... When you have a Louisville Slugger that's coming at 90 miles an hour for your chin, you're like, when did I get the next fear card? Boom!
Sure did, buddy.
Go for cards. Quick. And I mean quick. You have an awful hand. It is the worst hand I've ever seen in my life. Whoa. Because, like I said, of the 2 that actually does something, 1 of them doesn't kill, and the other one guarantees that you'll blight. So, find stuff quick!
One of them gives you 2 fear.
Now, they allow you to do cool things, yes. My point here...
Game state, not much.
Right.
My point here is, get new cards quick. Quick. Go.
But that's what he's built for.
Exactly.
Almost like a
Which
Starlight?
is the lesson here. The lesson...
You've had your time.
The lesson here is look at what you have, look at what it can do, look at what it can't do, go for new cards. Find these cool majors. Or heck, even go for those minors. Because, obviously, you are renowned for your major proficiencies.
Yes.
But if you play Boon of Ancient Memories on yourself, you can get a minor power. Which means you don't have to do Growth Option 2 so much.
Sure.
So that you can maybe do your 3rd one and still get energy and you can still grow out there. Which is nice. So there's a build there where you can pad out this negative kind of like, oh man, I can't really do a whole lot because, hey, look, that was a blight. And that was another blight. Hey, I defended that land. And they still blighted. And hey, that other card was on reclaim. And we blighted.
Get used to blight, buddy.
So
it's
just like I said, the spirit can be very random.
Anyone.
It can be, and it all depends on what you find. So get digging.
Yeah.
Go and find those power cards. Heck, Play Boon of Ancient Memories on yourself and still do growth option 2 if you want. Go and find those cards.
The uncertainty is okay.
Yeah.
You know?
And so you can succeed. Yeah, you can still succeed.
Reclaim and grow.
There you go.
Yep. It's not the worst, but there is a importance of, don't do a starting hand only challenge with this character.
Please don't.
Correct. So those are legitimate points, and that is a flaw, but baked into the cake
Is
are all the fixes
the
to
way to
flaw,
fix it.
which is why I think he's so good for new players. because,
Exactly.
like,
Which is why
I just looked at his board and I was like, oh, okay, that's what he does. That's
Yep.
cool.
Cool.
Yep.
Majors.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go for those.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
cool.
Prepare elements.
You're going to be getting a lot of new power cards,
Unlock-
which is also
unlock the
something I think
thresholds.
is very fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Push your
Very
luck.
much so. And so it can be very fun to have this early game of uncertainty that turns into a late game of just dominance. And that can be so much fun because you saw where I was going with all this, how fraught with danger and helplessness you were at the beginning. And look how far you came.
You become a carry at the
Look
end of the game.
how
Yeah.
big you now
It's
are.
all haymakers.
Yeah.
And now you're just going crazy. But you actually experience the pain of the ow, crap, oh, geez, oh dear, come on, let's go. And now you can have that catharsis of now I've adapted, now I'm big, now I can go on, boom!
You're getting stronger, like you said, with your power cards, with your majors, but also, I like that the innate, your defensive innate gets stronger
It
too.
scales.
That's
And
cool.
so the feeling of progression with this character is phenomenal. One of the reasons why Memory was my number 1 is because I think that of all the choices, these are the choices that are probably among the easiest to understand.
Yeah.
But the biggest one is of the characters I've had here, arguably has the biggest, most satisfying payoff when you get through that journey from start to finish.
Which is super cool, because in some games, like at the end, maybe your character's like, oh, my character is 2 extra health. Okay.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yay!
buddy.
Shifting memory can like clear house
Yeah.
at the end
Yep.
of the game, and that just feels really good.
And it
all
feels
the
so
stone,
cool.
earthy characters do that.
That is a cool theme that they all share.
Slow rolling, and
Yeah.
at the end of the game,
Yep.
Powerhouses.
total
Mhm.
powerhouse.
Yep. So, there they are. All 3 peeps. For John, your third was Volcano Looming High.
Yes.
Then followed by Stones and Yielding Defiance. And then Starlight.
Seeks its form.
As the
Wow.
number 1.
Nothing to see here.
Number 1.
Move
best
along.
for beginners.
Move along.
Ryan, I'm surprised you and I had the same 2s
I
and
know.
1s.
Yeah.
Oh.
John and I shared because I also had Volcano Looming High
Yep,
for my third.
we did.
But then I had Trickster for 2. And then Shifting
number
Memory for
1.
1.
There is one elephant in the room. There is one moderate from Jagged Earth none of us mentioned, and that is Many Minds Move
So,
as One.
the last segment I have here is why I didn't pick various peeps.
He has
Why?
all his segments.
Why I didn't pick Fractured. Huh.
Okay, yeah.
Why I didn't pick Starlight. Huh.
No.
Why I didn't pick Vengeance.
Yeah.
He's so cute.
Okay, Fractured, because time. And that is very crazy, very wacky.
Yes.
Starlight.
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
There's
There's a lot.
Lot of choices.
Vengeance. Woo. Okay, very
Light good?
unorthodox.
No.
Light is good, and you could easily
Let the build
condemn
happen
the
for free.
field if you're not really sure of what's going on. Okay, maybe pretty difficult.
Yeah.
You're not going to have any sadist or masochistic new players
He breaks
usually.
the mold a lot. So.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
goodness, yep. And when you have someone that has no mold and they've, it can be very difficult at first.
Those I understand, but why not Many Minds for anyone?
So,
Remember the game where I forgot about you?
Thanks, buddy. Keep coming back on this podcast.
In Shroud's case, Mist can be, hey, how does this movement work?
What?
How do
Range?
wow, look at this, like,
Keep things alive?
yeah, also not the easiest. I don't think it's as bad as a
No.
lot of these other characters, but I'm not going to say that's the easiest to understand. So, who are the peeps that we were talking about? It's Lure. It's Many Minds. It's Stone. It's Trickster. It's Volcano. It's Memory. Those are the 6
But-
that are like, okay, these are the group that people are going to be talking about, but which are the 3 that we put on our list? Well, I didn't pick Lure because Lure has a lot of tokens. A lot of tokens. And that growth option is odd.
is odd.
kind of odd. You do have multifaceted innates, and you're like, huh. I'm not saying it's the worst, but it is a decent chunk of change. Now, thankfully, once you've gotten through a game with Lure, you can be like, hey, I know how pretty much all of these tokens work.
After
Sweet.
turn 3, you're set.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Turn 2 for you, probably.
Hey, you're a smarty.
I have a lot of faith in our viewers.
There you go.
Why I didn't pick Many Minds. Many Minds really, in my opinion, should be a high complexity.
So
they are
much
so
to manage.
front-loaded in the fast phase. Everything they do is fast, with the exception of one thing that is slow. So whatever you're going to do it now! So that means you're going to have to do the perfect domino, or a semi-perfect domino. This one went before that one, which went before this one, but you have powers that need to have beast in them, so you got to make sure that that's there. But this one needs your presence that manipulates beast, but then that one needs to go off of beast, but then your sacred sites count as beast.
But it's over there, so I need to move it 2 away. Are the Nahan coming with me? Do I lead them?
With me? It's a lot.
It's a lot to
It
keep
is
track of.
fiddly. And you have no offense. So that really incentivizes, I gotta be perfect. You don't really have to be perfect, but that's like the vibe that you get. Since you can't natively do anything to kill bad guys, you gotta save the island as best you can.
And the reason I keep joking about forgetting about John is because that was my first game with Many Minds on the team.
Yeah.
And my first game as Lure. And I could understand what Ryan was doing with Trickster.
Yeah.
Strife.
I had no idea what John was doing. He was just like, hey, buddy, could you put a beast over there? And I was like, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Whatever you say.
Well, because the one slow power Minds has is add beasts. Cool.
Yep. So the awkward elephant in the room is stone.
What? Stone?
So many people have stone
I love stone.
for their like number 1,
Yeah.
but stone wasn't on my list. Stone would have been my number 4, but why were they not on
What
the
happened with
list?
stone, Ryan?
Well, Volcano was my 3, Stone was my 4. Stone, yes, is a defender, but a very unorthodox defender. And when you look at their tracks, look at Volcano's tracks versus Stone's. The heck is going on with Stones? Okay, if I want card play, I stay on the 1, but no, I can get it both.
Go up top.
But then I get minor powers from
that symbol.
This is an element. What? It's just a little bit more confusing at first. Like, okay, all right. But then running into the fire. Most new players don't really like to go into the fire. Yes, you can go ahead and survive Blight, but guess what you can't do? Do it without reservations. Because as we've said before, the moment that Stone gets overwhelmed, you could just immediately lose because you were holding the island fast, and the moment you were overwhelmed, because you have to realize, oh, if it outnumbers my presence, I wasn't upkeeping enough. I gotta stay here. So there's a pressure there.
I perfectly planned this out. Event comes up.
Oh, oh no.
I'm in danger.
I'm in danger. So all this time, you're like, yes, I'm the only one that can live. Oh. And then it all falls down, it all crumbles.
It can happen.
And then you're like,
I've seen it
damn,
happen.
I'm holding everyone aloft. And now you're the number 1 reason why we died. Because you needed to put one more presence there.
That one crack in the dam just breaks through, and you're
it's
just
that
like,
one crack in the dam. And when that happens, you feel like an idiot. Because you're the only person that can survive. And you're like, ha-ha! But you can't do it without thinking. So you gotta make sure that you still are smart with your presence placement. And that is a pressure that Volcano doesn't have. Because the thing is you can't just lose a game for everybody.
You can.
So
We start playing Connect the Dots with Blight, like, and it goes here, and then it cascades here,
Yep.
and then there.
And it's really cool to do like those reflects and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
And you can be like, yo, I'm just gonna jump in there
Throw
and
it back at
pow.
you.
And it's awesome. And it's really worth chasing. But I think that Volcano just edges out because it's not as pressuring. The tracks are really easy to understand. I think the growth options for Volcano are like straightforward. Okay, I get this, I get this, I get this. Another reason, by the way, that I just remembered, these particular 3, Volcano, Trickster, and Shifting Memory, is they have some of the most efficient tracks. Grinning Trickster has a perfectly efficient track, not a single repeat. And when it comes to Volcano and Stone, there's only one time that they repeat. For Volcano, they have a moment where they still have 3 card play, and Shifting Memory, they have the same with card play where it stays at 2. But
once I
that
see
is
a
just
repeating, I'm
one
like,
time.
okay, I'm not going there.
But it's only once.
It is.
Every other upgrade is an improvement.
Feels bad. I got to 2, and then I got to
Lure
2.
also has an efficient track, not a single repeat, but that's like a really nice thing to experience. You're like, oh, hey, look, I didn't have any repeats on there. Sweet. And so the upgrading paths are efficient. But anyway, yeah, I feel as if when it comes
Starlight
to...
doesn't have many repeats.
It's true. Starlight does not have any
because there's 17 growth tracks.
I can see you like picketing at a convention with a sign that says Starlight for beginners.
Play Starlight for beginners.
You have a table set up with 4 Starlight boards. You're like, come here, I'll teach you how to play.
I love how the guy that thinks that lightning should not be used for new
Too
players
hard.
is saying that Starlight should be used for
beams
new players.
fast.
John, I think you really need to recalibrate what the threshold for beginners
What
can
is
handle.
fast phase,
It's
Ryan?
the Drake meme, like lightning.
No.
Starlight.
Hey,
yeah.
Drake agrees with me.
You realize you make no sense.
Play Starlight.
But
It's
not
fine.
lightning.
Too hard.
So yeah.
Put him back in the box.
What's in the box?
What's
man?
in the box?
So yeah, there you go. That was a fun little thought exercise on what we thought was the best peeps and why for newer players. I was actually really interested to hear what y'all had to say. I think that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and I've got my next few spirits lined up that I want to play.
What are they? Tell us.
Well, Starlight sounds pretty cool. I don't know.
He can stay.
Obviously, Shifting Memory of the Ages and Trickster I want to try out. But Starlight sounds cool. Volcano's one who I never really took much interest in, but
Okay.
I kind of want to try it out.
Volcano and Lure are also very good for Archipelago because they can be like, yo, and just like jump to another board.
They
really
work
easy.
over
really
there.
well together too, because Lure's so good at just pulling everything to
Yeah.
that
Yep.
volcano. And
Hey!
And is
Yep.
lava everywhere.
yeah, so that seems like fun.
And Memory and Trickster, like Ryan said, are actually pretty similar in randomness. So I can see you
Yep.
liking both.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. No, Shifting Memory is one of my favorite peeps for casual games because they're just so random. You have no idea what you're going to find.
Which keeps replayability high.
Yep.
If you're playing casual or it's a
Yep.
teaching game.
Which is one of the
So,
reasons why Shifting Memory and Starlight are actually a really good pair too,
One of
because
the
they're
best
both
pairs.
searching the decks to find stuff.
Like maximize your RNG, get Trickster,
And in the
Shifting Memory,
lore-
and Starlight.
Ooh.
Starlight is powerful because they're the new kid on the block. They can do anything they want.
Yeah.
Shifting Memory is powerful because they've done everything, and so they get to do it again.
The
So,
old teaching the young.
yep. Well, there you go. I hope that was a sufficiently entertaining and fulfilling first episode into season 2. We got some fun things coming up in this season that I cannot wait to get into.
Oh, baby.
Josh, thank you so much for joining us for the commencement of season 2. Always a pleasure to have you on.
It's an honor to be here.
Hey!
It was a lot of fun.
See you
Thank
next
very
year
much.
in season 3.
Hey!
Goodbye.
Well, the wait is now over, and I can't wait to get into all the fun things that we have in store. But until next week, I have been Ryan,
I'm John.
And I'm Josh.
and we will catch you guys on the Flippity Flip.
Peace out.
Bye.
With great happiness and anticipation, do I make the claim that it is that time once again. Hello everyone, Editing Ryan here, coming to you with an open invitation to lend a helping hand to our first community episode of Season 2. As stated in the public service announcement, our first scenario to be examined is the one named Blitz. We're looking for 3 things to vote on, in addition to any comments you'd like to make. We're looking for which spirits you think either benefit or change the most with this scenario, as well as which spirits benefit or change the least. Additionally, we are also asking what your opinions are for which adversary combines with this scenario to yield the toughest challenge possible. It's true that Blitz is not particularly the most difficult challenge out there, but when you purchase Spirit Island, it came with a wide array of various experiences, and all of them provide different kinds of fun. And fun is not something we should ignore, even if you think it may be simple. We think that every aspect of the game deserves its own moment in the spotlight, and Blitz is something we think every player should experience at least once. We understand that asking the question who is the best or worst isn't as accurate or impactful for a survey like this given the scenario's low difficulty. Later scenarios will be much harder and will benefit from that sort of structure more than Blitz. Given the easy difficulty of the scenario, we thought we would ask who you think benefits the most and least because we felt that beckons a more lighthearted and fun dialogue. Blitz may be simple, but that doesn't mean it can't be fun. Let's cast aside heavy critical thinking and mind-crippling strategies for a day and take it easy with a fun thought exercise as we ease into Season 2. Whether it's strategy tips, fun facts, personal experiences, or other comments you'd like to make regarding this topic, please let us know in the comment section of either our Reddit or Board Game Geek surveys. The links to each of those will be put in the description of this episode. We're excited to hear what you all have to say, and we are genuinely looking forward to it. We hope you are too. That's it for me today. I hope you all have been successful in your endeavors to stay safe, stay healthy, and stay awesome. My name is Editing Ryan, and I am out of here! Season 2! Woo!